Chapter 786. The negotiation was not successful, so Fang Yen was still in a heavy mood. He couldn't go back for the time being. At least he needed to make some efforts. It was still early, so Fang Yen didn't go back to Qin Tian's villa directly. When Fang Yen went downstairs, Muing was already waiting for him at the door. Fang Yen asked Muing to walk him to the door of the red wall. Muing didn't ask any questions and nodded. In the luxury car, Fang Yen sat in the back seat thinking about something. This result was somewhat out of Fang Yan's expectation. He had thought that the woman of the Qin family would agree to help. After all, she was a smart person and knew what choice was best for the Qin family. Of course, he had also thought that the woman would refuse. The Jiang family had already offered them such great benefits, and the voices within the Qin family were so strong. If they didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Jiang family, or didn't want to enter a vicious battle of life and death with the Jiang family, then she would refuse without hesitation. However, he didn't expect that Li Xinyan would propose such a deal. It sounded ridiculous, and it didn't sound like something a woman of her level would do. The marriage with Qin Tian was indeed beneficial to Fang Yen, and it could solve the dilemma between Fang Yen and the Jiang family. Sounded tempting. However, since Fang Yen already had Yi Rou and had to be responsible for Lu Chaoga, how could he dare to mess with the little princess of the Qin family? If he agreed to the marriage with the Qin family, with the power of the Qin family and the shrewdness of Li Xinyan, they would never allow him to have any relationship with Yi Rou or Lu Chaoga. In that case, he would have to completely cut off contact with the two women. Fang Yen couldn't do that. Fang Yen didn't want to pay such a price. Besides, she said she liked Qin Tian. Fang Yen thought about it in his heart. Could it be that he had really shown something? Could it be that he didn't understand his own heart? Qin Tian. He chewed on this majestic and domineering name, but his heart was rippling with layers of bitterness. If that devilishly intelligent girl knew the truth of today's negotiation, what would he do? Everyone lived such a difficult life. Eagle Mu gazed at Fang Yen for a long while and then sighed deeply. I told you before that the Jiang family's stance is my stance. However, in my heart, I actually hope that you can cooperate with the Qin family successfully. Fang Yen squinted his eyes and smiled. He looked at Mu Ying's handsome face and said, "Thank you. No matter what, we are friends?" Mu Ying nodded and said, "Even when I need to attack you, we are still friends." Fang Yen laughed and said, "Yes, even if you need to attack me, we will still be friends, but I hope that such a day will never come. Because that would kill people. I don't want to die and I don't want you to die. I don't want to die and I don't want you to die." Mu Ying echoed Fang Yan's words. His eyes were deep and enchanting as he said, "Will that day really come?" Fang Yen didn't answer Mu Ying's question. Instead, he looked at Mu Ying with great interest and asked, "Are you very close to the Qin family?" "I grew up in the Qin family." Mu Ying smiled and said, "Your surname is Mu. The Qin family has a talent program. Every year, they collect talents from within the family or from all over the world for special training. I should be considered a talent in martial arts, so I became the young lady's bodyguard and chauffeur." Mu Ying's words were simple and perfunctory. It wasn't that he wanted to hide anything from Fang Yen. Instead, every big family had some core secrets. Who knew if Fang Yen was trying to find out the truth of the Qin family by asking him such a question? Fang Yen nodded and said, "It's good to have money. You can do a lot of things with it." Mu Ying smiled and said, "You are also very rich. Madam rarely praises people, but I have heard Chao Yan's name many times from her mouth. If I only have money but no power, my money will still be robbed by bandits. What I need now is power," Fang Yen said seriously. The car stopped some distance away from the red wall. Mu Ying had brought Qin Tian's car. Special cars like theirs were all registered with the relevant departments of the country. Therefore, they didn't want the relevant departments to read too much about their arrival. Fang Yen got out of the car and told Mu Ying to go back. Mu Ying didn't leave until Fang Yan's figure was far away. Fang Yen had become a member of the Xian department, so it wasn't too difficult for him to enter and exit the red wall. Facing the breeze and the warm sun, he entered the first gate and strode to the arch bridge that led to the central island. This bridge led to the center of Wuxia's power. It was usually not open to the outside world. Except for government officials or some special people, ordinary people couldn't set foot on this bridge. In other words, anyone who could set foot on this bridge was not an ordinary person. When he thought of this, his depressed mood was slightly relieved. "I'm not an ordinary person." As Fang Yen quickly walked forward, he heard the sound of a car behind him. Fang Yen quickly stepped to the side and waited for the car to pass by him. Unexpectedly, the black car with a red flag stopped next to Fang Yen. The window of the back seat rolled down. A square-faced man looked at Fang Yan. Fang Yan? The square-faced man asked in a low voice. Although he was wearing glasses, it couldn't hide the sharpness in his eyes. Fang Yan was secretly on guard. He could feel that this man was very hostile towards him. "It's me," Fang Yan said. "You are Jiang Yunong," the square-faced man said. Fang Yan immediately understood. So he was from the Jiang family. The Jiang family was hostile towards him and wanted nothing more than to kill him. However, when the Jiang family was about to crush him, an important person from the Jiang family stopped to greet him. What was the reason? "It's not convenient to talk here. If you don't mind, I can give you a ride," Jiang Yunong said expressionlessly. Fang Yan thought for a bit, then opened the door to the back seat and got in. Fang Yan sat next to Jiang Yunong, and he could feel the imposing aura of authority from Jiang Yunong. Jiang Yunong was also looking at Fang Yan and said, "Hearing about you is not as good as seeing you in person. You really are a young hero, thank you." Fang Yan's thanks were not sincere at all. "It's said that the Jiang family is strict and has many heroes. I've also admired it for a long time." The sharpness in Jiang Yunong's eyes disappeared, the corner of his mouth had a faint smile and said, "If it's someone else saying this, we can listen to it half truthfully and half falsely. But when these words come from your mouth, there is not the slightest hint of admiration in them. The General Ling was banished from his home because of you, and the General Xing has suffered several times in a row because of you. Even my own younger brother died at your hands." Fang Yan hurriedly denied it, saying, "You can't say something like that without any evidence. The general's order was his own sin, he had courted his own death. The Jiang family had great ambitions but little talent, they only wanted to prove their abilities, but the more they tried, the more useless they became. As for your brother, I don't even know who your brother is, so how can you say that I killed your brother? Fortunately, I didn't record it. If I did, I would be able to sue you for slander based on what you said just now." Jiang Yunong smiled and said, "If I needed to send you to prison, I would need evidence for those things. I don't need to do that, so I don't need evidence for a lot of things. I understand your style and means of doing things." Fang Yan said with a smile. "When you don't want to use the law to solve problems, it proves that you want to use violence to solve problems privately. These are both things you are good at." "Fang Yan, you didn't have a good talk with the Qin family, did you?" "How is that possible?" Fang Yan retorted with a sneer. "If you have a spy in the Qin family, you should know that Teacher Li specially invited me to have breakfast and coffee with her this morning." "Oh yes, I call her Teacher Li because I was a teacher in the past, so I feel very close to her identity as a teacher. We had a good talk and chatted for more than an hour. Originally, she wanted me to stay for lunch, but I received an emergency call, so I had to end it early. However, Teacher Li still asked Mu Ying, the bodyguard of the Qin family, to drive me here personally. Didn't you see Mu Ying's car just now? So it seems that your negotiation has been successful?" The ridicule on Jiang Yunong's face was very obvious. Of course. Fang Yan was like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. He completely ignored Jiang Yunong's expression and said, "The Jiang family will face the joint attack of me and the Qin family." Jiang Yunong pushed up the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said, "Fang Yan, I finally understand why you can succeed. A person like you is indeed very likable. When we first met, I felt that you were very different from other people. You have a spirit. There was a rebellious spirit in him. No matter who the opponent is, no matter what kind of situation you face, you can fight back shamelessly. This time, I really want to thank you for your appreciation of me," Fang Yan said with a smile. "If it wasn't for this spirit, I would have been trampled to death by Jiang Junling a long time ago. I would have become a pile of mud, a pile of weeds. I would still be Fang Yan, but no one would know who Fang Yan is. But are you ready? Are you ready for a bigger storm? I study Tai Chi, and there is a saying in the core theory of Tai Chi that I think is very reasonable. Now I will take it out and encourage you. If he is strong, let him be strong. I will f***ck your mother." Chapter 787. Let him be strong, I'll f***ck your mother. This was a very undignified curse. Fang Yan was a descendant of an ancient martial arts family and could be considered a real martial artist. However, he also inherited his mother Lu Wan's scholarly family's *etiquette. He rarely cursed when he was with people, and he rarely said anything that hurt people's self-esteem, unless he especially hated people. Those who said things like f***ck and lousy would never become the main characters in reality or novels. They were just villains who were stepped on by others. However, the Jiang family's fierce attacks wave after wave, Li Ye's disappearance and Du Qing's imprisonment, the result of the negotiations with the Jiang family, and the messy relationship with Yi Ro, Lu Chaoga and even Qin Tian, caused his anger to rise, and finally caused him to lose control of his emotions. He was really annoyed. To compete with a giant like the Jiang family, it was not possible to win by being good at scheming. It was a competition of resources, connections, capital operation, hundreds of responses at a single call, and hundreds of years of heritage. Moreover, the Jiang family could casually enter and exit the Red Wall, which could also bring pressure to Fang Yan. Whoever he came to meet, that person might stand behind the Jiang family and become their strong support. Fang Yan, even if he was a genius with extraordinary intelligence, he was still a young man in his 20s. He had no family to rely on, no elders to consult, and had to bear all the heavy responsibilities by himself. He would also feel annoyed and tired. He even often thought that it would be better if nothing had happened, and that he was just an ordinary young man from Swallow Dock or a slightly talented Rosefinch secondary language teacher. He liked that kind of life and also yearned for that kind of life. The many days of suppressed emotions finally exploded in the face of Jiang Yunong's aggressiveness. The Jiang family was the root cause of all this. He hated them to the core. Click. A black handgun's safety was pulled, and the pitch-black muzzle was aimed at Fang Yan's head. It was the bodyguard in the passenger seat, a young man who looked quiet but had a pair of blood-red eyes when he was angry. His hand holding the gun was very steady. Even when the car was moving, it did not shake at all. It seemed that his marksmanship must be very good. "You deserve to die," the man in the black suit said fiercely. "Shoot." Fang Yan moved his head closer to the muzzle of the gun. His voice was cold and there was a mocking smile on his face. "Shoot." The man in black's knuckles twitched and his eyes turned even redder. His fingers exerted a little more force, and with just a little more force he could pull the trigger. "Shoot me." Fang Yan stared into the eyes of the man in black. He seemed to be crazy, but he kept his voice very low. "Doesn't your Jiang family hate me? Haven't your Jiang clan tried to kill me time and time again? Shoot here. If you pull the trigger, I'll die in front of you." The man in black licked his lips as if he had made a final decision. "Shoot me," Fang Yan screamed. "Why don't you King shoot? I want you to die." The man in black gritted his teeth. "Stop," Jiang Yunong finally spoke. Screech. The man in black put away his gun and turned around. He stared at Fang Yan through the rearview mirror like a vicious wolf staring at its prey. "Coward," Fang Yan sneered and spat at the man in black. The veins on the man's forehead were popping out as if he was about to explode. "Jiang Yunong, don't fall for it," Jiang Yunong reminded him. The man in black looked up to see that the car they were in had already entered the Red Wall. If he had shot Fang Yan just now, the Jiang family would have suffered a devastating blow. No one could bear the consequences of shooting someone in a place like this, even if the person behind him was the Jiang family. If he couldn't kill, then he wouldn't look. The man in black turned his eyes away to avoid looking at Fang Yan. This was a mad dog. A mad dog that had been driven mad. Why should I stoop to the level of a mad dog? What's the point of killing a mad dog? I'll kill him eventually, but not now, not here. Without the boss' permission, the driver didn't drive the car into the Red Wall to verify it, but instead drove the car into the parking lot on the side. Jiang Yunong looked at Fang Yan and said, "You're angry? Feeling the pressure?" "Yeah. I'm feeling a lot of pressure. Can't you say, fuck you again?" The muscles on Jiang Yunong's face twitched as he said, "I used to think that you were an opponent worthy of respect. Now you think that I'm a stepfather worthy of respect? Fang Yan, you're angry, you feel the pressure? Tell me, aren't you being a jerk? I didn't offend anyone, yet you invited me into the car. You don't dare to kill me, you don't want to scold me, yet you want to threaten me. Tell me, aren't you being a jerk?" Fang Yan, the victory of words. "I fuck your mother. From now on, every word you say, I'll reply with, I fuck your mother. Do you want to keep talking? Seems like you're not in the mood," Fang Yan said. "I fuck your mother. Get out." "Okay." Fang Yan opened the door and got out. "I fuck you." Before Fang Yan could finish, the car spat out a puff of smoke and fled. "Mom?" Fang Yan shouted at the rear of the car. After thinking for a bit, he slapped himself. "Don't swear," Fang Yan told himself. Fang Yan came to visit Gong Sunqi. The last time they went on a mission together in the Millennium Palace, they were chased by countless death warriors from the Millennium Palace. In that forest, Fang Yan and Gong Sunqi supported and helped each other. They didn't abandon or give up. Although they were heavily injured, they still worked hand in hand and escaped from death, preventing the national treasure from being lost to the foreign land. As for why Wuxia had a treasure like the sacrificial staff, it wasn't something that Fang Yan and Gong Sunqi needed to think about. In any case, this was what Fang Yen reported to the young chief of the Xian department after he returned. The young chief expressed high praise for Fang Yen and Gong Sunqi's mission, saying that they were the cornerstones of Wuxia. Fang Yen was very humble. He said that he had only done what he was supposed to do. Any Chinese would have done the same thing if they were in his position. Fang Yen didn't report to the young chief that Fang Yen carried Gong Sunqi out of the forest of death because of his heavy injuries. However, everyone knew that it was Fang Yen who carried Gong Sunqi out of the forest of death. This was because when Fang Yen rushed to the meeting point of the Xian department, he ran with Gong Sunqi on his back. Although Gong Sunqi repeatedly resisted and expressed his desire to walk alone, the young chief thought highly of Fang Yen. The young chief thought highly of Fang Yen, who did not strive for credit and was not arrogant, and did not give up on his teammates in times of danger. He was willing to live and die with his teammates. He gave Fang Yen a huge reward on the spot and asked Fang Yen to write down his private number. He said that if Fang Yen had time he could go to his place for tea. What a good young chief. When Fang Yen arrived at the small courtyard where Gong Sunqi lived, Gong Sunqi was practicing walking with the help of a crutch. His right leg had been shot while he was fleeing, and the bone inside was injured. However, his physique was strong. After a period of rest, his body was much better. It was just that the injury on the bone was more troublesome. If he wanted to recover as soon as possible, he still needed some tentative training. Seeing Fang Yen coming over, Gong Sunqi swung the crutch in his hand and smashed it at him. Fang Yen caught the crutch and said with a smile, "Is this how you treat your savior?" "Savior?" Gong Sunqi sneered and said, "I might as well have died in the forest. At least I wouldn't have to come back to be humiliated like this." "Who humiliated you?" Fang Yen asked in surprise. Someone even dared to humiliate the disciple of the dragon god? Wasn't he afraid that the dragon god would break his arms and legs? You still have the face to ask. Gong Sunqi wanted to take out his crutch and hit him again. He shouted, "Of course it was you who humiliated me." "How did I humiliate you?" "The whole world knows that you carried me back. Although no one asked me about it, the way they looked at me, they were laughing at me." "How could that be?" Fang Yen looked very troubled. "This matter was so secretive that I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even mention it to the young chief. When he asked about your performance, I said that you were braver than I was, and that you knew how to give up." "What do you mean I was braver than you?" Gong Sunqi rudely interrupted Fang Yen and said, "What do you mean by that? Aren't you just trying to tell others that I was brave enough to let myself fall into a coma? What did I give up? That I almost gave up my life?" "You can't think like that," Fang Yen comforted him. "If you really want to think like that, there's nothing I can do." "Fang Yen, you tricked me. If I tricked you, I would have left you in the forest of death and let those rabid dogs drag you back to be cremated." Gong Sunqi's eyes were about to turn red. He choked and said, "When you carried me out of the forest, I had already regained some of my consciousness. I told you to put me down and only need to support me as I walked. Why did you have to carry me? How humiliating was it for me to be seen by those people who came to rescue me?" Fang Yen thought about it seriously and said, "If there's a next time, I'll definitely help you out." Chapter 788. Gong Sunqi's lame leg was about to recover from his anger. He pointed at Fang Yen and said, "You want to do it again? Next time, I won't go on a mission with you no matter what. You're too treacherous, I'll be screwed to death by you." "Why would I?" Fang Yen said with a smile. "This time we went into such a dangerous situation together, but didn't we still come back alive together? We brothers stood shoulder to shoulder and leaned against each other's backs. We've already established a deep revolutionary friendship. Next time I promise I won't screw you over. If you get injured and faint again, I'll definitely wait for you to wake up and bring you out to meet up with the others. Why am I the one who gets injured and faints every time? Why can't I carry you out when you get injured and faint?" You must not have watched Dwelling Snail, right? There's a handsome uncle who says something like this: "Everyone should do what they're good at. Fainting is what you're good at, carrying people is what I'm good at. Leave, I don't welcome you here." Gong Sunqi hurriedly waved his hand. He couldn't beat Fang Yen in a fight, nor could he win an argument against Fang Yen. He was worried that he would be angered to death by Fang Yen. Fang Yen didn't leave. He sat down on a chair under the eaves of the corridor and looked at Gong Sunqi. "Continue practicing, I'll leave after a while." Gong Sunqi stood in the courtyard for a few seconds, then leaned on his cane and sat next to Fang Yen. Looking at Fang Yan's gloomy face, he asked, "The Jiang family made a move against you? You know about this?" Fang Yen looked at Gong Sunqi in confusion and asked, Gong Sun Chi sneered and said, "Before you even entered the Xian department, I already thoroughly investigated your background. You offended the Jiang family, offended such a rich and noble family. At that time I wanted to see how you would die. I didn't think that you would be able to survive until now. It's quite a miracle." Knowing this, Fang Yin narrowed his eyes and smiled. "If I say yes that the Jiang family has forced me into a dead end, that my current life is unbearable, and that I could step into the void at any moment and be doomed forever, would that make you feel better?" "Yes." Gong Sun Chi nodded without hesitation. "However, I owe you my life," Gong Sun Chi said with a serious expression. "Oh? I owe you my life." Gong Sun Chi avoided Fang Yan's scrutinizing gaze. His handsome face was actually a little red. Saying such words made him, who was so proud and arrogant, feel really embarrassed. "Although I don't like the way you handled it, it's a fact that can't be changed. If you didn't carry me out of the forest of death, I would be dead now. Maybe the blood in his body was sucked dry by the locusts. I won't." Fang Yin comforted her in a low voice. "Your corpse will be carried back by the Millennium Palace's priests for cremation. This is their custom. When in Rome, do as the Romans do." Seeing Gong Sun Chi's fierce gaze, Fang Yin cupped his hands and said, "Continue to be sentimental. To be honest, I quite like how sentimental you are. That's all?" Fang Yin was a little disappointed. Pay your debt, pay your life. Since the context was destroyed, Gong Sun Chi couldn't say such sentimental words anymore. He coldly stared at Fang Yin and said, "I owe you my life, so I will pay you back. If the Jiang family kills you, then I will kill someone from the Jiang family for you. Tell me, who do you want me to kill?" "Really?" Fang Yan's eyes were seeing stars. "Really?" Gong Sun Chi nodded without hesitation. He had thought about this for a long time. Although it was against the rules, who asked his life to be saved by someone else? A man should be this righteous and unyielding. "You won't lie to me, right? A man will do what he says." "That's great. Can you help me stab that old man Jiang Shifu to death? That old man is too pretentious, I can't get along with him. The dumplings he makes are so disgusting, I almost died from the saltiness." Gong Sun Chi's face twitched, looking like he was in a lot of pain. "Is there a problem?" "There is a problem." "What problem?" "I can't kill Jiang Shifu," Gong Sun Chi said. "Even my Shifu can't kill him. If he didn't provoke my Shifu can't even touch him." "Why?" "Because he's a Jiang Shifu. You're not a man," Fang Yin said. "You didn't do what you said either. You told me to kill Jiang Shifu, that's right? You said it yourself just now that I saved your life, so your life is mine. I want to kill the general and cherish the blessings of the future. If I had 2 lives, I would use one to kill Jiang Shifu. Now that I have 2 lives, I'm going to use your life to kill Jiang Shifu." Gong Sun Chi painfully closed his eyes. He felt that if he continued like this, he would be too ashamed to show his face. He wanted nothing more than to find a hole in the ground to hide in. He said, "I can't kill Jiang Shifu for you, but I, Gong Sun Chi, will never go back on my words. Whoever kills you, I will kill them." Fang Yin thought for a bit, then asked, "What if I don't die? Then I won't have to kill anyone. Your way of repaying a debt of gratitude is too shoddy," Fang Yin said angrily. "How about I tell you who will kill me and you kill him first? What if you say Jiang Shifu again?" "I won't. I know the difficulty and consequences of killing him. Why don't you go kill Jiang Shi?" "Looks like that won't work either." Fang Yin stood up and said, "Rest well. I'm going back." Gong Sun Chi looked at Fang Yan's back. Seeing that he was about to step out of his courtyard, he said, "I'll try." Fang Yin waved his hand at Gong Sun Chi, then stepped out of the courtyard, leaving Gong Sun Chi with a tall and mysterious figure. Did he really believe me? Gong Sun Chi muttered to himself. After leaving Gong Sun Chi's courtyard for a long time, Fang Yin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Gong Sun Chi, this guy can be quite cute sometimes. If Gong Sun Chi could really help him kill Jiang Shi, then it would be a pleasant surprise for me. Even if the Jiang clan were furious, they would still blame it on Gong Sun Chi, or even the Dragon God's life. Fang Yin was really looking forward to the glorious battle between the Dragon God and the Jiang clan. What's there to be happy about? An old voice suddenly sounded by his ear. When Fang Yin looked up, an old man wearing a gray robe was slowly walking towards him. When Fang Yin saw him, he was already at the end of the path. When Fang Yin saw him clearly, he was already standing in front of Fang Yin. It looked like the Taoist distance reduction. Speak of the devil. He had just remembered the battle between the Dragon God and the Jiang clan, and in the blink of an eye, Coming was already standing in front of him. Coming was still as skinny as before. His clear eyes looked at Fang Yan and asked, "What's so happy about?" Fang Yan looked at this legendary figure of the Jianghu and said, "I just thought of something interesting." Coming naturally wouldn't believe Fang Yan's nonsense. After hearing Fang Yan's answer, his face showed no expression and said, "You came out from Gong Sun Chi's place?" "Yes." Fang Yan nodded. "No matter what, Gong Sun Chi is my comrade, he used to be. He's injured, so it's only right for me to come and see him." "What do you want?" Coming asked as he looked at Fang Yan. "What do you want? You think I came to see Gong Sun Chi because I have an ulterior motive?" Fang Yan sneered. "If that's the case, why did I take such a big risk to carry him back in the forest of death? Wouldn't it be safer and smoother for me to escape alone?" "I don't believe you have any good intentions toward Gong Sun Chi," Coming said directly. "Of course, I don't care if you have good intentions or not. I can spoil you, but I can also destroy you." Fang Yan looked at him coldly and said, "I don't care if you spoil me or want to destroy me, because one day I will destroy you." There was a glimmer of light in Coming's eyes. It wasn't fear nor anger but excitement. This reaction made Fang Yan a little angry. "This old thing seems to lack opponents. Unfortunately, your state is too low." A glimmer flashed in Coming's eyes, and then he shook his head regretfully. "The most unforgettable battle in life is when I competed with Mo Qingdi. Unfortunately, decades have passed in a flash, and I can't find such a talented master anymore. The rest can't even withstand a single blow. I won't let you down." Fang Yan looked straight into Coming's eyes and said in a very serious tone. Coming looked at Fang Yan's eyes and temples and said, "It seems that you still haven't crossed that threshold. Wait until you have crossed that threshold, then come and say this to me. It's immoral to give people high expectations for nothing." After saying this, Coming didn't have any intention to talk to Fang Yan anymore. He passed through Fang Yan's body and walked toward Gong Sun Chi's courtyard. After a few steps, Coming turned back and looked at Fang Yan. "If Mo Qingdi returns, please come and inform me." Fang Yan's eyes turned cold and he said, "Don't worry about this, as long as the old drunkard returns, I will inform you first." Coming smiled and said, "I hope you can understand. It's hard to find an opponent." Fang Yan wanted to go back and discuss with Gong Sun Chi again. If Gong Sun Chi stabbed his master to death, then the debt of saving his life in the forest of death would be even. Would Fang Yan agree? Chapter 789. Fang Yan felt that his mood was like a boat sailing in the sea, going up and down. He was in a bad mood after being ambushed by the Jiang family in Huaqing. After coming to Beijing, Qin Etian warmly welcomed him and accompanied him to a hot spring bath. Although he didn't see anything, his mood was still better. He was upset again after failing to negotiate with the Qin family. Outside the Red Wall, he met Jiang Yunong of the Jiang family and vented his frustrations on him, improving his mood again. Seeing Gong Sun Chi feel his true feelings, Fang Yan was in a good mood. When he walked out the door and met Gong Sun Chi's master, Undying Divine Dragon, Fang Yan's mood turned gloomy again. Against an opponent like the Jiang family, Fang Yan was still struggling to resist. However, when he met a heavenly Dao realm expert like Ting Ming, he couldn't even utter a threatening word. This was because everyone knew that he posed no threat to him. He also knew all of this, so there was no need for him to say it out in front of others. When Fang Yan entered the Red Wall, he got Mu Ying to bring the car back. Now that he was out of the Red Wall and there was no car waiting for him, he planned on walking around the corner. It was still early, and it was unlikely that Qin Etian had returned from her mother's place. He needed to stay behind and think of a way to get some information. It would be best if he could hear news that Gong Sun Chi had suddenly wiped out the Jiang family. Thinking of how Gong Sun Chi's leg injury had yet to recover, the possibility of that happening was slim. All he could do was shake his head and sigh. Fang Yan walked out of the Red Wall, crossed the moat, passed through the Black Tortoise Gate, and walked towards Chang'an Street. Fang Yan looked at his surroundings. Everything was familiar, as though he had seen every shop before. He stopped in his tracks and thought about it seriously. Only then did he realize that the teacher had brought him to meet that old man. After coming out, he had taken him to the Bai family's noodle shop to eat a bowl of Zhejiang noodles. Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. He never expected that his thoughts would lead him back to the path he had taken before. It was already noon, and he planned to find a nearby restaurant to eat something. The Bai family's Zhejiang noodle restaurant was something he absolutely could not go to. If he was poisoned by the Bai family's old man who hated him to the bone, wouldn't he die of injustice? Fang Yan looked around, but before he could find a suitable restaurant, he found a familiar figure. Fang Yan opened his mouth to shout, but he quickly stopped himself. Why was he calling her? He had nothing to do with her. Just as Fang Yan was about to turn around and leave, he found that the girl was in trouble. Is he going to save the damsel in distress? Fang Yan smiled bitterly. But I really don't have the mood right now. Bai Jie is a student of Beijing Foreign Language School, majoring in Japanese and Spanish. Because her family ran a shop, she would go home every day after school to help her grandfather entertain guests. Today was no different from usual. She hummed a tune and played with the heart-shaped stone in her hand as she walked to the noodle shop at home. Suddenly she was blocked by a group of people. 3 girls and 2 boys, all of them were Bai Jie's classmates. They were considered as students of the same school. Bai Jie looked at them in surprise and asked, "What do you want?" "Bai Jie, you shameless bitch, how dare you steal my boyfriend?" The leader of the group was a girl with short hair. She was wearing a black leather outfit and carrying a black, fashionable backpack. She looked cold and cool. When she pointed at Bai Jie, a scorpion tattoo was revealed on the back of her hand. "Zhoulin, what are you talking about? When did I steal your boyfriend?" Bai Jie frowned and said. Her personality was gentle and sunny, but it didn't mean that she was weak. Her classmates called her a shameless bitch, which made it hard for her to accept. She was very angry. "You still have the face to deny it? Where did you go with Li Yifeng last night?" "Li Yifeng?" Bai Jie thought for a moment and said, "The school was holding a New Year's Eve party. Li Yifeng and I were the hosts, and he asked me to go to the library to exchange words." "Exchange words?" Zhoulin sneered. Everyone listen carefully. These educated bitches are really different. If it's a green tea bitch, then let it be. Why are you still talking about such high-sounding exchange words? Did everyone learn another trick? Wang Xiaola, if you sleep with someone's girlfriend in the future, just say that you took her to exchange words. Do you think her boyfriend will believe you? The boy named Wang Xiaola giggled and said, "How can I do that? I can't do such a shameless thing." Look, even a shameless person like Wang Xiaola said he wouldn't do such a shameless thing. Bai Jie, how could you do it? Zhoulin's attitude towards Bai Jie became even more vile, and her words became even more unpleasant. "You always pretend to be a pure white lotus, but deep down you're actually a lewd woman. Do you want to try it if you're a man?" "Zhoulin, I want you to apologize to me immediately." Bai Jie was so angry that her body was trembling. Her delicate face was tense. She pointed at Zhoulin and said, "Nothing happened between me and Li Yifeng. Apologize to me immediately." "Bai Jie, you still don't know, right?" Zhoulin sneered. "You don't want to say it, but those men who have tasted the sweetness won't keep such a secret. Do you know how I know about this? When I went to find Li Yifeng, he was bragging to his buddies that he had already taken you last night. He said that you were still a virgin before him. Bai Jie, do you still want to pretend?" "I didn't." He lied. Bai Jie's eyes were red because of her anger. She tried hard not to cry. "Nothing happened between me and him. We just exchanged words together. He confessed to me, but I rejected him. I don't like him at all." "You don't like him? Or are you lying to? Li Yifeng is our school's most handsome boy and the basketball captain. How can you not like him? Which girl in the school doesn't like him? He even confessed to you? TSK TSK TSK. So cold. Li Yifeng confessed to you, but you rejected him. Bai Jie, are you trying to tell us that you are more outstanding than all the girls who like Li Yifeng?" "I didn't mean it that way. I just don't like him." "You didn't like him? You only spent one night with him? You exchanged words with him when you didn't like him? Bai Jie, don't you think you've gone overboard? Do you think that I won't be able to deal with you if you don't admit it? Do you believe that I won't tear your clothes and let you run naked on the streets?" You lunatic." "I'm not a lunatic. You're a whore." Bai Jie, quickly admit it." "I didn't do it. I have nothing to do with him." A dead duck still refuses to admit it. "I hate green tea bitches like you the most. Come, everyone, tear her clothes for me." A group of people rushed over and surrounded Bai Jie's frail body. Zhoulin reached out to pull the buttons on Bai Jie's dress, preparing to tear her clothes off. "Let go. Let go of me." Bai Jie hugged her chest tightly to prevent her dress from being torn off. Tear her clothes off. I'm going to take a photo. I'm going to send her nude photos to every male student in the school. I want to see how she can maintain her image as a little white flower in the future. Let go of me." Bai Jie cried. The situation was too dangerous and the consequences were too serious. Some conflicts between students were sometimes even more filthy and disgusting than the methods used by adults. They were easily angered and violent, and they didn't care about the consequences. "Wang Xiaola, use your F** king strength. Is she your girlfriend or your biological mother?" You're standing there like a dead person. Make sure you don't block my angle, I'm going to take a photo. Hurry. The phone that Jolin was using to take a photo was slapped away. The white iPhone fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. On the screen, Baijia's tearful face was sliced into countless pieces. Jolin was furious. She turned around and glared fiercely at the man who hit her phone and scolded, "Your mother is dead and you're here to interfere?" Jolin received a slap on her face. King dare. Jolin received another slap on her face. After a few consecutive slaps, Jolin was completely dumbfounded. She stared at the smiling man with her eyes wide open, as if she was looking at a devil smiling at her. What kind of person was this man? "Who are you?" Wang Xiaola asked. Wang Xiaola received a slap on his face. Because he used too much strength, his body fell backward and his butt landed on the hard concrete floor. "Who are you? How can you hit someone?" The girl who pulled Baijia's hair received a slap on her face. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, and her eyes were filled with horror as she looked at the man who was slapping her without saying a word. The students were finally afraid. They let go of Baijia's arm, let go of her clothes and carefully approached Jolin. Their faces were filled with anger, and their hearts were filled with humiliation. However, they didn't dare to fight back because they knew they were no match for this man. "Who are you to her?" Jolin covered her face. It was hard for her to accept being slapped several times in front of Baijia. Her lungs were about to explode from anger. "Leave your name, this isn't over." Jolin received another slap on her face. The man looked at the students who were desperately retreating and asked, "Anything else?" Chapter 790. We often see this kind of school violence. A group of boys beat up another boy, causing him to be hospitalized. A group of girls beat up another girl, tearing her clothes, taking nude photos and posting them on the internet. Senior students blackmailing junior students. "Don't leave after school" has become a widely circulated and funny saying. Sometimes you can't help but wonder, why are the children in school so violent and murderous? Of course, it's not like there isn't a better solution. Some time ago, the media reported a kidnapping case that shocked China and America. A group of Wuxia students kidnapped their compatriot and forced the girl to kneel in the cafeteria for 20 minutes. Their brutal crimes included stripping her clothes, burning her breasts with cigarette butts, lighting her hair with a lighter, forcing her to lie on the ground to eat sand, shaving her hair and forcing her to eat it. The brutality of the crime was outrageous. If this kind of thing happened in China, of course it wasn't uncommon in China. Those offenders would always easily forgive them because they were still a group of children or because of the law protecting minors. They would either go back to reflect for a few days or write a so-called self-reflection essay or record a demerit. It looked like there was no punishment at all. However, when those offenders thought that it was just house play between children, American law would send them to prison and punish them with sky-high bonds. Children have the right to make mistakes, but children don't have the right to break the law. If they didn't pay a heavy price, such things would continue to happen in a holy and noble place like school. Fang Yin used to be a teacher. He hoped that his students could be simpler, more tolerant, more relaxed and more enjoyable. Whether it was Zhao Guodong and the others he taught before or Zhou Lin and the others he met today, their behavior had crossed the line. This wasn't a joke between students, but a destructive attack on a person's life. With Baijia's personality, if Zhou Lin sent the nude photos to every boy in school as a prank, what would happen to Baijia's life in the future? If she did something extreme, who would be responsible for the tragedy? At that time, someone would stand up and say that she was just a child, that she didn't expect this outcome, and that she didn't do it on purpose. Then they would quickly pack their bags, transfer schools and run away. However, what about the family that was destroyed? Even if they wanted to destroy Baixiu's family, this was not something Fang Yen wanted to see. Baixiu was Baixiu, Baijia was Baijia. Baixiu was a murderous demon, but Baijia was just a student, a pure and kind student at that. Therefore, when Fang Yen saw this kind of thing, he was particularly angry and he was particularly impolite. "Anything else?" Fang Yen asked. There was a faint smile on his face, or perhaps it was not a smile but a taunt. Zhou Lin still wanted to say a few more pleasantries, but when she met Fang Yan's icy gaze, she couldn't spit out the profanities that were already at the tip of her tongue. She glared at Baijia fiercely before turning around and walking towards the entrance of the alley. "Zhou Lin!" Fang Yen shouted. Zhou Lin turned around and looked at Fang Yen with fear. This devil, what else did he want to do? "I know you're not convinced," Fang Yen said with a smile. "It's okay, I like people with pride. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman." Jolin and her friends were confused. What was he trying to say? However, if you dare to cause trouble for Bai Jie in school again. Fang Yan's toes gently drew a circle on the ground, and the hard cement floor was cut into a circular pancake by him. Everything you said just now, I will do it to you. Zhou Lin, Wang Xiaola, and the others looked at Fang Yan's feet and the cement block that was cut by his toes. Their eyes widened and their faces were full of surprise. Was this guy Spider-Man's transformation? Anything else? Fang Yan asked. Zhou Lin, Wang Xiaola, and the others' anger dissipated, and they fled the scene like a group of frightened rabbits. Fang Yan turned to look at Bai Jie, who was hugging her chest with tears streaming down her face. Her hair was messy and her dress was torn in a few places. The zipper on her back had been partially unzipped, revealing her smooth and clean back. Fang Yan sighed softly and said, "I'll send you back." Bai Jie shook her head desperately, her voice choked with sobs and she couldn't say a word. Fang Yan thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll send you?" He looked around and said, "I'll send you to the hotel." There was an express hotel a few dozen meters away, and Fang Yan used his ID card to get a single room. Under the strange gaze of the receptionist, he led Bai Jie upstairs. After entering the room, Bai Jie's crying stopped. She took out a tissue to wipe the tears on her face, and her face turned bright red. It was like a ripe tomato. Fang Yan looked at Bai Jie and said, "Go wash up." Bai Jie nodded, turned around and walked into the bathroom. When she came out again, the tears on her face had been washed away, and her hair had been combed soft again. Surprisingly, she still crossed her arms in front of her chest and walked cautiously. She lowered her head and walked to Fang Yan and said, "Thank you." "You're welcome." Fang Yan said, "This kind of thing, no one can tolerate it. Can you do me a favor?" The girl asked aloud. What? "My dress is broken. They ripped the zipper off." Bai Jie said awkwardly, her face was so shy that it could drip water. "Can you help me pin my dress?" "Can I?" Fang Yan also became a little careful. "Why does the atmosphere feel a little different?" "Yes, I have a pin in my school bag." After getting an affirmative answer from Fang Yan, Bai Jie quickly found a pin in her school bag. She handed the pin to Fang Yan, and then turned around to show her back to Fang Yan. This made it easier for Fang Yan to fasten the zipper in the back to prevent the dress from opening up on both sides. Her white and smooth skin had the youthful luster of a young girl. Her figure was slender, and from the open part her soft waist and perfect body curves could be seen. She was wearing pure black underwear, and the bandage of the underwear cut into her flesh, leaving a shallow groove. Bai Jie's body was tense and her breathing was rapid. She felt Fang Yan's eyes scrutinizing her, and every part of her body was extremely sensitive. However, she couldn't say anything. This was what she begged him to do, and she took the initiative to show her nearly naked back to him. A girl of her age has never been in close contact with a man like this. It was a kind of sensitive and stimulating throbbing. She could feel her heart pounding so hard that it felt like it was about to jump out of her chest. Is it done?" Bai Jie's mouth was dry and her body was trembling. She felt that she had to say something. Anything would be good. "It hasn't started yet," Fang Yan said with a smile. "And?" Bai Jie nodded. She didn't know why she had such a reaction. She didn't know what was the point of this. Maybe she just wanted to prove to him that she was still sober and not nervous at all. Fang Yan took the pin and fastened the two pieces of the dress that were uncontrollably lifted to both sides, and said, "There is still one missing." "Then I will find another one." Bai Jie hurriedly jumped away and rummaged through her bag. Fang Yan smiled and said, "I lied to you. It's already been fastened. Your dress won't fall down again." Bai Jie was stunned for a while, then she zipped up the bag, turned around and said coquettishly, "You bad guy." Bai Jie's mood was much better now that she didn't have to worry about the dress falling down at any time. She looked at Fang Yan and said, "Are you going to stay here today?" "It doesn't seem necessary." Fang Yan shook his head with a smile. "Anyway, the room is already open." Bai Jie said, "I will make you a cup of tea." Bai Jie had been a helper in the noodle house for a long time, so she was quick to work. She quickly brought a cup of tea and placed it in front of the table where Fang Yan was sitting. She also held a cup of plain water and sat in front of Fang Yan. She looked down at him and said, "Am I very embarrassed?" "No." Fang Yan shook his head. "They are the ones who are embarrassed." "How can that be? No one dares to bully them." Bai Jie naturally didn't believe Fang Yan's comforting words. Perhaps they haven't realized it yet, but in the future they will feel ashamed of what they have done today. Furthermore, if they don't change their ways, they will eventually pay the price for their actions. Fang Yan said with a serious expression on his face. This time he wasn't comforting her. He really thought so in his heart. You didn't do anything wrong, but you were attacked like this. How can it be embarrassing? I just think I shouldn't cry. Bai Jie said. Actually, I didn't want to cry. But when I saw you appear, I couldn't help but cry. I suddenly thought of my brother. If my brother was here, they wouldn't dare to bully me like this. My brother wouldn't allow others to bully me like this. I haven't seen my brother for a long time. I don't know how he is now. Of course. Fang Yan nodded firmly and said, if your brother was here, they wouldn't dare to bully you like this. You wouldn't allow them to bully you like this. At the entrance of the Express Hotel, a man wearing a black felt hat and a scarf around his neck stared at the lobby of the hotel as if he was hesitating whether to rush up and catch the adulterer. Chapter 791. I didn't seduce her boyfriend. Bai Jie held a cup of water and sat in front of Fang Yan. Her head was lowered, and her face was full of melancholy. It seemed that she hadn't fully recovered from the blow just now. She was a very simple girl. Compared to many girls who said F***CKU, and grab your breasts, she even hesitated to say the word seduce. She didn't know why, but she wanted to explain to Fang Yan. Perhaps she wanted to explain that she wasn't the kind of woman they said she was? Fang Yan smiled and drank his tea, waiting for Bai Jie to continue. Actually, I don't like Li Yifeng at all. I think he's too frivolous. Relying on his good looks, other than Zhou Lin, he has several girlfriends. Seeing Fang Yan looking at her with a smile, Bai Jie hurriedly explained, actually, I don't think he's handsome either. He's not as handsome as my brother. Fang Yan nodded. Putting aside his selfishness, Fang Yan had to admit that Bai Xiu was indeed a rare handsome guy. In Swallow Dock, other than himself, Li Xiaotian and Zhu Ziden couldn't suppress his limelight. The school is holding a New Year's Eve party. Li Yifeng and I are the two hosts. Originally, we have to rehearse our lines before the event. Li Yifeng said to get a room at the school gate or a private room at a cafe. I didn't think it was good, so I said to go to the library. He confessed to me, but I refused. I didn't expect him to say such things behind my back. You really don't understand guys. Fang Yan said with a smile. I mean, you don't understand the psychology of scumbags. You just look at him, and he has already stripped your clothes off countless times in his heart. Ah. Bai Jie's mouth opened wide. She thought to herself, how many guys have I looked at? I'm not talking about all the guys. Fang Yan said gloomily. I mean, guys like Li Yifeng shouldn't be given any chance. What are you going to do next? I don't want Grandpa to worry. I can't tell him about this. Fang Yan nodded. As long as you don't say anything, they won't know. When I go back, I will resign from my position as a host. I won't have any contact with Li Yifeng anymore. That's fine too. Fang Yan nodded. Those things didn't have much meaning in the first place. Bai Jie looked up at Fang Yan and said, I really have to thank you this time. If it weren't for you, I might have. It's just a bite from a dog. What's the big deal? Bai Jie blushed as she nodded and asked, when did you arrive in Beijing? Last night, Fang Yan said with a smile. What a coincidence. You came back yesterday and we met today. Bai Jie looked very happy and said, have you eaten? How about I treat you to some noodles? Fang Yan shook his head and said, no need. Let me treat you. I will personally cook noodles for you. My noodles are very delicious. Bai Jie extended an invitation with a sincere look. Otherwise, I don't know how to repay you. Fang Yan smiled and said, you don't have to repay me. You just need to live a good life. That's the best repayment for me. Bai Jie looked at Fang Yan thoughtfully and asked, you must be very good friends with my brother, right? It must be so. Bai Jie looked very sure and said proudly, it's not convenient for my brother to meet us, so I have to trouble you to take care of us from behind, right? Seeing that Fang Yan was silent, Bai Jie was even happier and said, I guessed it right? It must be so. When Grandpa Long took you there last time, I had already guessed it. This time I encountered trouble and you helped me solve it. Fang Yan, you have been protecting me from behind, right? Actually, it's not like that. Don't lie. I know it must be so. The last time those hooligans went to the noodle house to make trouble, you happened to appear. This time, the bad students in the school came to find trouble with me, you happened to appear. If that's not the case, how could you happen to appear in front of me every time? This is really a coincidence. I don't believe it. Bai Jie shook her head. Big brother Fang Yan, can you tell me? What happened to my brother? Your brother? Fang Yen regretted jumping out to be a hero to save the beauty. The following plot was completely beyond his expectations. How could he answer such a question? Seeing Fang Yan's hesitant expression, Bai Jie's tears rolled down and she said, "My brother, is he no longer here? He should still be, right? Big brother Fang Yan, don't lie to me. Tell me the truth, I can bear it. I know you want to hide it from my grandfather, afraid that the old man can't bear the blow. Don't worry, I won't let him know." Fang Yan put down the teacup, got up and said, "Actually, I'm not very familiar with your brother." With that, he opened the door of the room and walked out. Bai Jie looked at Fang Yan's back and cried even more sadly. Her brother must have met with an accident. Bai Jie felt that her life was so bitter. The most bitter thing was, why did she have to be called Bai Jie? Fang Yan found a Xiangxi crock soup shop on the roadside and went in to drink a bowl of bitter gourd soup to calm himself down. He felt that his inner fire had risen so much that his body was about to burn. After eating the soup, when Fang Yan was about to go out to take a taxi back, he found that there was already a luxury car waiting at the door. Mu Ying, who was wearing an expensive suit, once again became the focus of the crowd. Everyone's eyes were focused on Mu Ying and the luxury Rolls-Royce behind him. When they saw Fang Yan walk towards the luxury car step by step and saw Mu Ying bow slightly to him and open the door for him, the customers who were sitting next to him at the table and eating pork trotter rice and bitter gourd soup all widened their eyes. He's too pretentious, they thought in their hearts. The shop owner chased after them and took out his phone with his greasy hand to take photos of Fang Yan's back and the luxury car. He wanted to print out the photos and hang them in the shop to tell the other customers that even young masters who drove Rolls-Royce liked to eat his pork trotter rice. Alright, he also wanted to prepare a 99 yuan Rolls-Royce meal. When Fang Yan returned to Qini Tian's villa, the housekeeper Coco told Fang Yan that Miss Bai had returned and was enjoying the hot spring in the backyard. He asked Fang Yan to go there directly. Fang Yan thought for a moment and walked toward the backyard. Qini Tian's body was soaking in the hot spring with 2 cucumber slices on his eyelids. No wonder Fang Yan always thought that Qini Tian's skin was so good. It would be strange if his skin wasn't good after soaking in the hot spring for so long every day. Qini Tian seemed to be resting with his eyes closed. Hearing Fang Yan's footsteps, he said, "Come in and soak for a while. You must be tired today." Fang Yan sat beside the chair and didn't want to go into the hot spring. "Whenever I feel stressed or in a bad mood, I like to come in and soak for a while. When I get out of the hot spring, I'll find myself full of energy again. I'll be a new me. At that time, maybe I'll find some new ideas. At that time, it proves that you're not anxious. Because when you're really anxious, you can't even soak in the hot spring," Fang Yan said with a smile. That's true. Qini Tian didn't deny Fang Yan's statement. "I've never experienced something like gambling my life. I have 100 yuan, but I'll only take out 30 or 50 yuan to gamble every time. I won't bet 80 or 100 yuan. So, no matter when, I have a chance to win back. I want to do that too, but someone forced me to bet everything," Fang Yan said aloud. "Do you know the result of today's negotiation? If I said that I was standing behind the curtain when you negotiated with her, would you blame me?" Qini Tian took off the cucumber slices on his eyelids and opened his beautiful eyes to look at Fang Yan. "Oh," Fang Yan said. "What does this have to do with you? She made such a proposal without discussing it with you. I didn't expect her to express herself so directly." Qini Tian looked at Fang Yan, her long eyelashes fluttering, and she looked a little embarrassed. "Yes, a little bit. I thought she would be more reserved. But, are you really not going to think about it?" Qini Tian squinted his eyes and smiled. "If you agree to her request, the threat to the family will be solved. Unless the Jiang family wants a war of the century, or they won't use my man as an example. Besides, the Qin family's property is very rich. With our ability, we can completely hold everything in our hands. Those brothers and sisters at home, if they talk to us nicely, we can give them some benefits. If they play some tricks and stab us in the back, they won't even get a hair. And..." Qini Tian splashed water on his face with his arm and said, "I don't look ugly, do I?" Fang Yan's throat moved and he said, "You've heard my answer. I heard it, I heard every word you said, every sigh. But I can't help but want to hear it again. I'll ask you face to face and then I'll see you refuse me face to face." Qini Tian said with a smile. "This way, I can give up even more." Chapter 792. This kind of question was too heavy and it always made Fang Yan speechless. Someone said, "Please give me a girl when I'm 18 years old." Fang Yan's problem was that God gave him too many girls at once. God, in arranging his fate, must have shaken his hand so badly when he tipped out the bottle of the girl, that the whole bottle of the girl fell on his head. Otherwise, how could he have encountered such a love calamity? Fang Yen didn't want to talk about beauty's kindness. He really couldn't accept Qin Yitian's feelings after having Yi Ro. Or he could give up Yi Ro and accept Qin Yitian's feelings alone. Looking at the fairy-like beautiful woman soaking in the water, Fang Yen said in a low voice, "You know, this is really difficult for me." "I know," Qin Yitian said with a smile. "I know it's difficult for you. So I'm just saying it. That's all I can say. When she proposed this kind of deal, I already knew your answer. How could you accept it? If you accept, then you're not the Fang Yen I like. But if you reject her, what will you do in the future? Face the Jiang family alone? The Jiang family is a giant. If they attack, even the Qin family will find it hard to resist. And I'm saying if, because of your rejection, she is inclined to cooperate with the Jiang family, and keeps silent on this matter, or directly accepts all kinds of benefits from the Jiang family, then at that time, you'll face a situation where you'll be surrounded by enemies. Have you thought about all of this?" "I have." Fang Yen nodded. "This is the worst-case scenario. What we've built up with difficulty may be quickly destroyed by them. What we've worked hard for may also be completely taken away by others. I may lose everything, and I don't even know if I'll be able to keep my life at that time. You came to Beijing to negotiate with the Qin family because you didn't make enough preparations." "Yes." Fang Yen nodded. "Against an opponent like the Jiang family, no one dares to say that they have made sufficient preparations. I am the victim and the Jiang family is the attacker. I didn't have the ability to call a truce, so I could only grit my teeth and continue to fight. Perhaps we will die this way, but in the eyes of the outside world, in your eyes, will that be more dignified?" Qin Yitian pondered for a long time and then said in a deep voice, "I have an idea." "What is it?" "Voila." Qin Yitian suddenly stood up from the hot spring pool. Her black hair flowed like swimming ink, and her skin was as white as the first snow. Her breasts rose and fell like mountains, and her face was as beautiful as a goddess coming out of the bath. She was completely naked, revealing the most precious part of a young girl in front of Fang Yen. She was not timid, nor would she dodge. She just stood there with her back straight, as though it was a matter of course, yet unscrupulous. Her figure did not make people feel erotic. Instead, it gave people a pure and holy feeling. Her eyes were like the sun in the sky, and the blazing light made it difficult for people to look directly at her. Qin Yitian looked at Fang Yen expressionlessly and said, "You've seen my body, so I'm sure she won't make things too difficult for you. After all, she can't be sure if I will become your woman in the end." In the evening, Fang Yen received a call from Li Xiaotian. "What's up? Sneaking to Yanjing without telling your brothers?" Li Xiaotian's voice was both friendly and reproachful. Fang Yen came in a hurry this time, and he had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He really didn't plan to contact them. "I just came last night and there are still a lot of things to take care of," Fang Yen said with a smile. "I wanted to wait until I'm done here before I can have a good gathering with you guys." All right, don't hurt our hearts anymore. I know you won't take the initiative to contact us even if you're done with your business. Where are you now?" Fang Yen thought for a while and told them the address of the villa where Qin Yitian lived. "Oh, that's the most famous villa area in Yanjing, and it's also the earliest villa area. It's the best landscape and hot springs in Yanjing. Later developers wanted to build there, but the government didn't approve it at all. Why did you live there?" After a pause, Li Xiaotian suddenly understood and said, "I see. I heard that the young lady of the Qin family took a fancy to the houses here many years ago and bought several villas there. Are you living in Miss Qin's house now?" Fang Yen glanced at Qin Yitian, who was leisurely drinking coffee and reading a magazine on the opposite side, and asked, "What's the matter? It seems that you acquiesced." "Nothing, I just want to know if you're free tonight." "No," Fang Yen said. "I've booked a private room in the Garden Hotel. Come here at 7 o'clock in the evening," Li Xiaotian said. "I'll send you the address and the number of the private room later. See you there." "I may not be free tonight." Beep beep. The other side of the phone had hung up. Qin Yitian took a sip of coffee and said, "Your friends are very good. I understand their feelings, but I don't want them to stand out with me on this matter." "Afraid of bringing danger to them?" "Yes." "If something good happens, will you think of them?" "Of course." "That's it then," Qin Yitian said, her voice cool. "If they just accept your kindness but never know how to give, would you still be willing to be friends with such people?" "Go ahead," Qin Yitian said. "You need the strength of everyone. You don't need to waste any of it. When Fang Yen got out of Qin Tian's extended luxury Rolls-Royce, when everyone's eyes were focused on him, Fang Yen had to admit that he somewhat liked this feeling. No wonder Qin Tian always used this car as a means of transportation. Just this car and the bodyguards around the car were enough to scare away the enemies. Qin Tian didn't like trouble, so she could always choose the best way to solve it. Of course, that was except for suddenly standing up from the hot spring pool. Until now, Fang Yan's little heart was still beating fast. When Fang Yan came to the Imperial Garden Room under the guidance of the waiter, Li Xiaotian rushed over and hugged Fang Yan tightly. "Little Yanzi, you're finally here. We missed you so much." Before Fang Yan could push him away, Yi Fengxing, the big fatso, rushed over. He opened his arms and hugged both Fang Yan and Li Xiaotian, almost suffocating them. "Let go. Let go." It was Li Xiaotian who couldn't hold it anymore. He shouted anxiously, "Yi Fengxing, are you trying to kill us for money?" Yi Fengxing laughed and let go of Fang Yan and Li Xiaotian. He looked at Fang Yan with a smile and said, "Sorry, I couldn't help it. I don't know how your wife can stand your physique." Li Yanqing teased. "Others get thinner and thinner as they practice martial arts. You, on the other hand, have trained yourself into a body full of fat." Li Yanqing patted Fang Yan's shoulder and asked with a smile, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Fang Yan said with a smile. The devil's incarnation Wang Kaixian walked over and cursed, "The Jiang family is going too far. If they infuriate me, I'll burn down that shabby mansion of theirs. Don't think I haven't scouted the place." "You're just shooting your mouth off. If you really dare to do that, I'll write my name backwards." "Your name backwards is called Jingrua?" Fang Yan allowed them to fight by the side, his gaze fixed on the man who was looking at him with a smile. Compared to when he left, the man's eyes were deeper, and the contours of his face were deeper. Because of the long period of exposure to the sea breeze, his skin had become bronze. He had a stocky build and looked like a bodybuilder. His smile was warm and looked clean and pure. However, there was a murderous aura around him. It was as if it could break through the skin and give the enemy a storm-like attack. "When did you come back?" Fang Yan asked the man. He didn't think that he would come back. He didn't think that they would meet here. Meeting old friends was, after all, a joyous occasion. "Yesterday," Zhu Ziden said with a smile. "Because of me?" Fang Yan asked. "Because of us," Zhu Ziden said. 3 years ago, because of the incident at the Maple Leaf Club, Yi Daoling began to value the abilities of these young people. He disrupted all these people and sent them to places where they could display their strengths. Zhu Ziden's martial arts path had never broken through, so he was sent to the dangerous North Sea to guard. There was no news of him for several years. The sea was vast and it was impossible to find a person. However, he didn't know who called him, or perhaps it was telepathy between brothers. He rushed back at the most dangerous and difficult time for Fang Yan. Together with the other partners of Swallow Dock, he firmly stood behind Fang Yan. They were the Swallow Dock's male god team, an invincible team of brothers. Fang Yan looked at Zhu Ziden's eyes and said with a smile, "Looks like you've made great progress." Zhu Ziden nodded and said, "I've been killing in the North Sea for 3 years. The invaders or various sea beasts are returning. It's time to use my sword." Fang Yan reached out and hugged Zhu Ziden in his arms. "Welcome home." Chapter 793. Teacher Tsin Danqiu Sheng, please pour in the wine, don't stop. I will sing a song with you, please listen to it for me. Bells, drums, dishes and jade are not expensive, but I hope to be drunk forever and never wake up. Since ancient times, sages have been lonely, only those who drink leave their names. Although Wang Kaixian was a devil incarnate, his voice was very deep and powerful, and the song that came out from his smoky voice was very infectious. At first he was singing alone, but then Ruan Jing and Yi Fengxing sang along. In the end, everyone sang along. After the song ended, Yi Fengxing shouted to drink, and everyone picked up their bowls of white wine and drank it in one gulp. Everyone present was from Swallow Dock, and the men of Swallow Dock loved wine, and their alcohol tolerance was excellent. When the waiters in the private room saw these guys open the moutai and pour the wine bowl after bowl, they felt a little dizzy. How was this drinking? They were clearly risking their lives. However, they didn't have the chance to be dizzy for too long because very soon, everyone felt that they were in the way and directly chased them out. They poured the wine and drank it themselves. Why would they need the waiters? The gathering of friends was pure and lively. Everyone spoke freely and scrupulously, showing off and attacking each other. Zhu Ziden had guarded the North Sea for many years, and the stories that came out of her mouth were both new and strange, so she naturally became the main character of this gathering. Do you know about the sword-kissed viper? That fellow is originally born in the deep sea and normally, it's impossible to see them. However, their venom is extremely strong and they're not human but they're very cunning. One night, a sword-kissed viper somehow sneaked into the crew's cabin and bit 7 of our brothers. At that time I was sitting on the mast drinking wine, and when I heard the commotion below, I carried the wine pot and jumped down. After figuring out what was going on, I raised my long sword and chased after the viper. That animal was very cunning and when it saw someone chasing it, it jumped into the sea and I also jumped into the sea. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the story to continue. That animal acted as if it were its own home in the sea. That's right, it's a poisonous snake. Moreover, it had the ability to change its color. How could I find it in the pitch-black sea? I had already given up, but I didn't expect that the animal still wanted to fish in troubled waters. It wanted to take advantage of the black waves to bite me. I was so angry that I chopped off its head with my sword. Killed? Yi Fengxing asked. This child loved to listen to stories when he was young. Every time he listened to a story he would be especially fascinated. It was easy to put himself in the shoes of others. Kill him. Zhu Ziden nodded. What about those who were bitten by poisonous snakes? 3 died, the rest were saved by Shiqing. Since Shiqing is here, why didn't she save the other 3? Yi Fengxing asked. Zhu Ziden glanced at Yi Fengxing, lowered her head and drank a big bowl of wine. She said in a sorrowful voice, not enough snake purity. The doctor said that the snake Qing of the sword-kissed poisonous snake was not enough and could only save 4 people. Therefore the 3 of them committed suicide. Our brothers guarding the North Sea all had one of those snakes in their mouths. They were worried that they would be captured alive during a mission and leak some secret. If we didn't stop them in time, the other 4 would have committed suicide as well. The private room was dead silent. Everyone's expression was so gloomy that it was somewhat scary. Living is not easy, but sometimes death is even harder. Our ancient people often told the story of 2 peaches killing 3 soldiers. Because it was difficult to distribute the benefits, everyone fought to the death. However, in the sea area that we are unfamiliar with, there is still a group of people who chose to die when faced with the possibility of living. It's not that they didn't cherish their lives, but because they knew how precious life was, they were willing to give this precious chance to live to their brothers and comrades. They didn't die from the sword-kissed poisonous snake's attack. They died from suicide. Zhu Ziden said in a hoarse voice. Her face was filled with deep sorrow. Come, let's toast them. Fang Yen raised his bowl. Although we don't know his name. However, they will always live on in the hearts of those who have witnessed this event and heard this story. Everyone raised their wine bowls and toasted in the direction of the North Sea. After that, I stopped drinking at night. Every night, we patrol the entire ship because we are worried that monsters like the sword-kissed viper will climb on board again, Zhu Ziden said in a heavy voice. It was only later that I found out that the sword-kissed viper was raised by a snake breeder. They wanted to let it enter the control room of the main ship and wait for me to arrive at the shore. Then, they would slaughter the sect that liked to raise sea snakes in the country that had always been hostile to us. Beautifully done. Wang Kaixin roared, his face red. A man should do what he shouldn't do. Ziden, when are you going to the North Sea again? I'll go with you. Zhu Ziden shook her head and said, I have to deal with the Grim Reaper every day in the North Sea. Because I know the horror of death, I yearn for this peaceful world. However, if the country needs me, I will go to the North Sea again. Victorious return, what are you saying? Ziden just came back and she wants to go to the North Sea with you again? That's right, the matter with Fang Yen still hasn't been resolved. In any case, I'm going to Huaqing with Fang Yen this time. Zhu Ziden looked at Fang Yen and asked, when are you going back to Huaqing? Tomorrow. Fang Yen replied. He couldn't accept that woman's conditions, so he couldn't continue negotiating with the Qin clan. As such, there wasn't much point in staying in Yanjing. He wanted to go back and stand with Lu Chaoga and the others. Without him, he wouldn't be able to grasp the situation in Huaqing. I'll go with you. Zhu Ziden said. I'll go as well. Yi Fengxing roared with a red face and neck. I'll fight whoever doesn't let me. I want to go as well. Even if someone breaks my legs, I'll crawl. Alright, you guys come with me. Fang Yen smiled. Aren't you afraid that we'll take the risk this time? Li Xiaotian chuckled. When I came here, someone told me that being willing to sacrifice for others is a brother, and being willing to accept the kindness of others is also a brother, Fang Yen said. Through thick and thin. To be able to say such philosophical words, it must be a woman, and a beautiful one at that. Li Xiaotian said with a profound expression. Ruan Jing sneered and said, I can even calculate that beautiful woman's surname is Qin. The smoke of the incense wafted out, and the fragrance of tea permeated the air. Qin Yiqian, dressed in a plain white robe, was kneeling in front of a tea table carved from the roots of a 1,000-year-old rosewood tree. His posture was elegant and his movements were calm, and he was ordering tea as he conversed with the woman on the screen. This doesn't suit your style, Qin Yiqian said without raising his head. She poured herself a cup of tea, then closed her eyes and sipped on it. You'll never dwell on what has happened. You'll only pay attention to the current facts, and then look for problems and come up with the best solution. A man who isn't willing to marry my daughter has seen my woman's naked body. No parent would be able to accept this kind of reality, whether it's something that happened in the past or something that I have to face now. The woman on the screen was breathtakingly beautiful. She didn't wear any makeup, nor did she wear any jewelry. However, just by sitting there, her every frown, every smile, every word, and every sigh made people feel great pressure. I'm your mother first and then I'm your manager. But what I don't understand is, how could you do such a thing? Do you think this will help him? Threaten to change my stance? No, I know it won't make much sense. Qin Yiqian put down the cup in his hand, opened the box of the incense burner, and used a pair of tweezers to poke at the burning incense. She did all of this in a simple and casual manner, busy but not messy. It looked like an ordinary mother and daughter chatting while doing housework. Then why are you doing this? Because I like him. Qin Yiqian chuckled. There are so many pitiful people and I don't take off my clothes for them to see, right? But he's the first man I've fallen in love with so seriously, and I always want to do something for him. I know it's your style. Every decision had to be carefully calculated. Every investment had to have the greatest return. Moreover, a woman in charge of such a huge family, how much resistance will there be in front of her? You've never told me, but I can imagine it in my heart. I'm your daughter and I'm not stupid at all. I know I can't influence you, let alone the overall situation, but as you said just now, you're my mother first and then you're the manager of the group. Which parent in the world doesn't think about their daughter? If I don't do this, then he has no hope at all. If I do this, you'll think about him more or less, right? The woman on the screen frowned and said, This is the man you want? This is the happiness you want? You should know that the most basic quality of an outstanding woman is to know how to make choices. Not only can they run a business well, but they can also run a family well. Qin Yiqian looked up at his mother and said with a smile, If the person you liked back then wasn't my father, would you still be willing to take over everything in the Qin family? No. The woman shook her head and said firmly, I'll destroy it. Look, I'm not like you at all. Qin Yiqian said with a smile, Since I like him, other men have become heir. I've never had them, so how can I make choices? Li Xinyan pondered for a long time, looked at his daughter's delicate and dignified face and said, I'll reject the proposal of the general family. Chapter 794. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they bade farewell to their friends at the entrance of the garden restaurant. Mu Ying, a competent driver and bodyguard, was already waiting at the entrance of the restaurant. Seeing Mu Ying's aura, Fang Yan's friends were envious. Chen Yanqing looked at Fang Yan and said jokingly, If you and the Qin family's Missy are together, would the Jiang family dare to bully you? Yi Fengxing widened his eyes and said angrily, Chen Yanqing, what are you talking about? If Fang Yan is the kind of person who fawns on the rich, would we be willing to be friends with such a person? He would abandon his purest and most precious love for a little immediate benefit. This kind of person is the modern Chen Shimi. He can abandon love and friendship. We don't even know when he will sell us out. After a pause, he continued, Besides, if Fang Yan and the Qin family's Missy get together, what will happen to my sister? My sister got together with Fang Yan first. If he abandons my sister, she will chop him into hundreds of pieces and feed him to the dogs. Thinking of Yi Ro's notoriety and her previous actions, Chen Yanqing realized that she had made a serious mistake. She quickly explained, I'm joking. I'm worried about Fang Yan's situation. Actually, I've always supported Fang Yan and your sister being together. Think about it, we are all from Swallow Dock. We are childhood sweethearts and know each other very well. One of us has the heart of Taiji, and the other is likely to become the youngest Heavenly Dao Realm expert in Swallow Dock. Fang Yan and Wenro are a match made in heaven. Why are you pulling me along? Wang Kaishen chuckled and said, Chen Yanqing, why are you so nervous? It's not like Yi Ro will jump out and kick your ass at any time. Who's nervous? I'm just saying what I think, Chen Yanqing said in a bad mood. Li Xiaotian waved his hand and said, All right, don't talk so much. They're still waiting. The Qin family is the Qin family. Look at the driver. If he walks with us, others will think that we are his drivers. We can only be drivers if we go to the Qin family. There was always an endless amount of nonsense between brothers. Go back and rest, Fang Yan said with a smile. I'll wait for you at Flower City. Everyone agreed on a time to gather at Huaqing and then dispersed. When Fang Yan was about to get into the car, a blue sports car honked not far away. When Fang Yan looked over, the blue Maserati blinked twice mischievously, and then everything returned to the tranquil night. Muing also looked over curiously and asked, Your friend? It should be. Fang Yan nodded and said, You go back first. I'll go back by myself later. Muing grinned and said, You want me to go back and tell Miss that you were taken away by another beautiful lady? How do you know it's a beautiful lady? Are there any unattractive ladies around you? Fang Yan touched his nose and said with a smile, I don't think so. After Muing drove away, Fang Yan walked toward the Maserati in the corner of the hotel parking lot that was full of rumors. The window slid down and Xia, who was wearing big sunglasses, waved at Fang Yan and said, Get in the car. Fang Yan opened the door and got in the car. Looking at Xia's clothes, he asked, Have you been waiting for a long time? I know you're eating with friends here, so it's not convenient to go up and find you. I don't want to disturb your mood, so I sat outside for a while. Xia started the car and drove out of the hotel. Fang Yan was moved. In this world, there weren't many men who could make a superstar like Xia wait, right? Where are we going? Fang Yan asked. I'll take you to see an old man. Xia said. Fang Yan pondered, looked at Xia and asked, Do you think this is good? No. Xia said directly. Then why are you still here? I do. Although he was driving a sports car, the speed of the summer was not crazy at all. On the contrary, it was much gentler than some of the cars that Fang Yan had ridden in. Looking at the rapidly retreating night scene, Fang Yan sighed softly and said, When the disaster came, I thought I had nothing. What I could take out was pitifully little. The enemy only needed to launch a full power charge and they would be able to crush us into pieces. Only now do I understand how rich I am. With the protection of such power, no one can easily knock me down. Fang Yan, do you know why everyone is willing to help you? While driving, he had a semi-serious conversation with Fang Yan. Her expression was relaxed when she spoke, but the content of her words was very serious. Because I'm a good person? Fang Yan asked with a smile. Yes, because you're a good person. Since Xia agreed with Fang Yan's joke. You're willing to help others, but you subconsciously reject their help. It's precisely because of this that everyone wants to do something for you. Then I hope that good people will be safe for the rest of their lives. Fang Yan said with a smile, but in his heart, he was carefully recalling every word that Xia Chen had said. Did I help anyone? Wan Jing was a sissy. Every time he fought with someone, he would cry and hate iron for not becoming steel. Every time he fought with someone, he would fiercely praise him. Yi Fengxing had repeatedly failed in his pursuit of a girl. He had accompanied him to lose weight, but in the end he had become fatter and fatter. Chen Yanqing had asked Fang Yan to teach him Tai Chi. Am I really a good person? Fang Yan couldn't help but ask such a question in his heart. Fang Yan had always known that Xia Chen's identity was not simple, but after the sports car had been inspected over and over again, he finally realized that it was not simple. Xia Chen parked the car in front of the door and knocked on the wooden door of the small courtyard. The one who opened the door was a young man with delicate features. He was very excited to see Xia Chen and happily shouted, Sister Xia, you're back? The chief is playing chess in the study. Little Zhou, I brought a friend back. You don't need to accompany me. Xia Ji said with a smile as he led Fang Yan to the second floor. The door to the study was open. An old man with white hair and beard was sitting in front of the desk, playing chess with himself. He was playing the simplest chess, scratching his ears and cheeks. It looked like he was stuck in the game. Grandpa, Xia called out with a smile. Seeing that Xia Chen had returned, the old man's eyes lit up. He said, I heard a sound outside just now. I thought it was the kid from the Wang family next door who came back. I didn't expect it to be my big star granddaughter. Come, help Grandpa see what I'm going to do next. Xia Chen walked over to look at the chessboard and said, Grandfather, you've forced yourself into a corner. From now on, we'll each hold one side and fight. Good. I like to play chess with my precious granddaughter. The old man was overjoyed. Xia Chen's chess skills were not bad, but in the end he was still defeated by his grandfather's horse. The old man laughed heartily, looked at Xia Ji and said, You purposely went easy on me at the end. Tell me, what do you want from me this time? Xia pointed at Fang Yan and said, Grandfather, he's my friend Fang Yan. The old man's gaze swept across Fang Yan's face and said, he's a good seedling. Grandfather, you want to pull people into the army again? Not everyone wants to be a soldier. You silly girl. The old man shook his head and said, I'm looking at his eyebrows. This kid has a small stomach, but his ambition is big. His future is limitless. However, since you brought him to see me, it means that you've been in some trouble recently, right? Grandfather, the Jiang family is bullying others. Xia said angrily. They insist on snatching other people's things from their own homes. Do you think it's infuriating? The old man chuckled as he looked at Fang Yan and asked, Did you have a conflict with the Jiang family? Yes. Fang Yan answered honestly. He could tell that this old man was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. The divine light in his eyes was restrained. Nothing could escape his calculations. It's not that easy to provoke a general who cherishes his fortune. The old man sighed. What do you think? What? Fang Yan looked at old man Xia in confusion. I'm here to ask for help. Why did you ask me what I think? There has to be a rule. The old man said with a smile. This is a battle. How can there be no rules in a battle? The soldiers are incompetent, and the 3 armies are exhausted. You are now the general who leads the 3 armies. I can't die under your hands in vain. Grandfather, what are you talking about? Xia complained. Joking with young people. Old man Xia said with a smile. Fang Yan thought for a moment, then said, I can only borrow the power to hurt others. Old man Xia waved his hand and said, Your goal has been achieved. You can go back now. Fang Yan bowed deeply to old man Xia and said, Thank you. When this matter is over, I'll come back to pay you a visit. Old man Xia's face was full of praise as he said, No wonder those brats from the Jiang family can't beat you. You've lived like a human. Fang Yan's smile was sincere as he said, I still need to learn a lot from you, elder. Fang Yan took her leave and Xia Chen could only follow her out. After getting on the car, Xia couldn't help but ask, Why are you leaving so soon? Have you two made an agreement? It's settled. Fang Yan said with a smile. Ever since I stepped into your house, we've reached an agreement. Chapter 795. Borrowing power to hurt people, whose power to borrow. Borrowing the power of the Qin family, borrowing the power of the Xia family, borrowing the power of all the people that could be borrowed. No matter the outcome of the negotiation between the Fang Yan and the Qin family, Fang Yan had to show that our negotiation went smoothly. The Qin family is on our side. Don't bully me or my big brother will trample you to death at any moment. Besides, Fang Yan was now living in the private villa of the Qin family's eldest daughter, Qin Yitian. With Qin Yitian's high reputation and influence in Beijing, this matter had probably fallen into the eyes of people with ulterior motives on the first day Fang Yan arrived in Beijing. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but this matter itself could give people unlimited imagination. If it was intentional, then it proved that Qin Yitian treated Fang Yan with good intentions. She did not hesitate to sacrifice her reputation in order to create momentum and prestige for Fang Yan in the outside world. There was another possibility. Perhaps Qin Yitian had already had a premonition that Fang Yan's request for help would fail before Fang Yan set foot on the land of Yanjing, so he had placed such a chess piece in advance. At that time, Fang Yan had asked Mu Ying to send him to the hotel, saying that it was very inconvenient to stay here. At that time Mu Ying had said, Miss doesn't care, what do you have to care about? Thinking about it carefully, it was a deep feeling. Fang Yan followed Xia to the Xia family. He didn't even drink a cup of tea from the Xia family. His but didn't even occupy a corner of the Xia family's chair, but Fang Yan got a lot of harvest. Old Master Xia was indeed a smart person. With just a few words he made Fang Yan see the moon through the dark clouds. Borrowing power, borrowing the power of the world. In a situation where the Qin family was unwilling to go all out to fight against such a giant, this was the best and only choice. If all the negotiations were like this, the world would be too harmonious. Xia drove the car out of the military courtyard inside. I grew up in such a family and only now do I slowly come back to it. You grew up in Swallow Dock, but your reaction speed is dozens of times faster than mine. What did you eat to grow up? How can there be such a big gap between people? Xia Chen had an extraordinary background and had been in the entertainment industry for many years. He was quite satisfied with his IQ and EQ. However, he realized that he was still far inferior to Fang Yan. I'm just thinking a little more. With a smile on his face, Fang Yan said, Too many things happened to my family when I was young, so my mind is more sensitive. After I grew up, I was often bullied by a girl. I couldn't beat her, so I always wanted to take revenge. I used all kinds of methods. That's not a reason, Summer said. Taking revenge on a girl and what you're doing now are two completely different concepts. And that girl is the girl you like. How did you know? Fang Yen asked in surprise. When you talk about her, your eyes narrow and you can't hide the smile on your face. Xia Qin pretended to be angry and said, "Please, I'm also a woman, okay? Showing such a strong love for another woman in front of a woman will make people jealous, okay? If I can't hold the steering wheel because I'm angry, it'll be 2 lives in a car. It's going to be on the headlines tomorrow," Fang Yen said with a smile. "How about I leave some more clues and lead this car accident to the Jiang family? Do you think they'll be in trouble? Whoever provokes you is unlucky." Xia Kiki giggled. Her laughter was as pleasant to the ear as her singing voice. "However, I don't want to die with you. I don't want to die now. I want to do a lot of things. If you don't die, I won't die either. It's too lonely to walk the Yellow Springs Road alone," Fang Yen said with a smile. "But I really have to thank you for today. It's not like I did anything." Xiaji curled his lips, looking as cute as a young girl. "It's all because of you and our family's old man. I haven't even had the time to say a good word for you, and the two of you have already come to an agreement. I'm standing there like an idiot. You're still staying in the Qin family's young Mrs. mansion at night? You know about this too?" Fang Yen smiled bitterly. "Who doesn't know? The entire Maple Leaf Club is talking about this. Before your plane even landed at Beijing Airport, countless pairs of eyes were staring at it. Otherwise, how would I know that you came to Beijing if you didn't call me? How would I know that you, Yi Fengxing, Li Xiaotian, and the others were gathering at the Garden Hotel?" Fang Yen looked out the window into the dark world. He thought to himself, the Jiang family should know about this too, right? How would they react at this moment? "Kiss and Yuan Lin miss you very much," Xiaji suddenly said. "They're very busy right now, very busy. They have a lot of jobs every day. I've already asked the company to shorten their schedule, but there are still a lot of things to do. Perhaps this is what we mean when we say that people in the martial arts world are not good. However, as long as we're together, they'll always mention you. They'll always say how Mr. Fang is. Fang Yen, you should go see them when you have time." "I will." Fang Yen nodded. "Even if I'm not here, I'm still silently watching them from behind, cheering them on and telling them to work hard. I'll pass it on." The car drove up the mountain road and Xia slowed it down again. At this time she was no longer talking to Fang Yen. Instead, she was focused on the road ahead. It wasn't until they reached the entrance of Qin Tian's villa that Xia let out a sigh of relief. She looked at Fang Yen and said with a smile, "I've finally delivered you safely." Fang Yen raised her eyebrows and said, "Are you all right alone?" "No problem," Xia said. "I'll pay attention to some things." Fang Yen thought for a moment, then said, "I'm worried. I'll send you off." "You send me off and I'll send you off again. Are you still going to sleep tonight? If Miss Qin suspects that we have some secret relationship, wouldn't she hate me to death?" Fang Yen smiled and said, "How can I let a girl drive alone on the mountain road? You drive me to the entrance of your neighborhood and then I drive your car back. You don't just have this car, do you?" "Yes, gentlemen. Thank you for your hard work, miss." The two looked at each other and laughed. This kind of knowledgeable friend relationship was really good, free and easy, but also concerned about each other. Fang Yen did not expect Yi Daoling to send Ruan Jing to pick him up. Based on Fang Yan's understanding of Yi Daoling, this man was someone who would not release an eagle until he saw a rabbit. If there were no attractive enough benefits, he would not easily make any decision. Besides, he was currently at war with the general family. With his sensitive position, he should not have contacted him. However, Ruan Jing came to his door early in the morning. Along the way, Fang Yen kept interrogating Ruan Jing. Ruan Jing just laughed along with him, not telling him why Yi Daoling wanted to see Fang Yen. "Forget it, I won't force you. Anyway, we'll know in a while." Fang Yen waved his hand and said, "It's useless even if you force me," Ruan Jing said with a wry smile. "We drank together last night and received a call from the boss in the middle of the night. He asked me to pick you up this morning. He said that he wanted to treat you to Yanjing's authentic fried liver. Please, do you really like to eat that thing? I accompanied the boss to eat twice and every time I felt like vomiting." "I think it's okay," Fang Yen said with a smile. "Even if I eat with your boss, I'm afraid it won't taste anything." "That's true. Anyway, I don't want to eat with the boss. If the boss asks later, I'll say that I've eaten." When they arrived at the small courtyard that Fang Yan came to last time, Yi Daoling was eating breakfast at home. Yezi hadn't gone to school yet. When she saw Fang Yan coming over, she waved at him and said, "Come quickly, my dad specially left a bowl for you. It's still hot in the pot. I'll get someone to bring it to you." As he spoke, a servant brought over a large bowl of steaming hot fried liver. Yi Daoling glanced at Ruan Jing and said, "You sit down and eat something together. You went out early in the morning, so you probably haven't eaten anything." Ruan Jing didn't want to smell the fried liver, but he had to obey the boss's orders. He just sat far away and scooped a bowl of millet porridge for himself. He picked a steamed bun and quickly ate it. While Fang Yan was eating the fried liver, Yi Daoling put down the newspaper in his hand and looked at Fang Yan and asked, "If I didn't let Ruan Jing pick you up, you wouldn't have come to see me, right?" Fang Yan nodded and said, "Yes." Yi Daoling stared and said, "Am I that unpopular with you?" "That's not it." Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "I'm just afraid of causing trouble for you." "Trouble?" "Hehe, it's not like you don't know about the matter between me and the Jiang family. They clearly want to get rid of me. Your identity is sensitive, so why should I burn the flames of war on you? If I shamelessly came to your door, you definitely wouldn't be happy, right?" Yi Daoling laughed out loud. He pointed at Fang Yan and said, You are really likable and annoying." Fang Yan wiped his mouth with a tissue and said, "It's just that I speak too straightforwardly. This is one of my few shortcomings and I don't want to change it. A person who is too perfect will be envied by others." Yezi giggled and said, "Fang Yan, don't you have any shame?" "I don't want it," Fang Yan said. "I'm going to lose my life. What's the use of shame? Yezi, eat less, you'll get fat." Chapter 796. For women, being fat was their spent foundation, scattered eyelashes, and a pimple on the tip of their nose. This was the most difficult thing to accept and tolerate. Fang Yan called her fat in front of her father and Ruan Jing, which made Yezi almost melt the spoon in her hand. Of course, Fang Yan actually said, "Be careful not to get fat," but Yezi had automatically ignored the words, "Be careful not to get fat." "You think I'm fat?" Yezi's eyes were round and she looked at Fang Yan angrily. "I didn't say you're fat." Fang Yan looked at Yezi doubtfully and said, "I mean eat less, be careful not to get fat." "Why should I eat less? Do you think I'm fat now?" "I don't mean that. I'm worried about the future." "That's what you mean? You think I'm fat? Otherwise why would you ask me to eat less? How am I fat? I'm less than 100 pounds, okay? You're the fat one." "Humph, my figure is so good and you dare to think I'm fat. Do you have any taste? I think gentleness is beautiful." My taste is still good, right?" Fang Yan said with a smile. "It's fine if it's this matter. If I want to eat, I'll eat. Why do you care?" Although Yezi said so, she didn't dare to dig the millet porridge in the bowl with the spoon in her hand. She put down the half piece of mung bean cake in her hand and stared at Fang Yan fiercely. She said, "You big fatso." Fang Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at Ruan Jing and said, "You judge, did I say she's fat?" Ruan Jing looked up at Fang Yan blankly and said, "What were you talking about? I was busy eating and didn't hear it clearly." "Okay." Yi Daoling waved his hand, looked at his baby daughter and said, "Yezi, are you going to school?" "No, I'm not in the mood." Yezi's eyes were still staring at Fang Yan. She said, "I'm going to practice. Lose weight." "Fang Yan didn't say you were fat." Yi Daoling said to uphold justice. "He did. He just said it clearly, but you still favor him." Yi was also dissatisfied with her father. "He thinks your daughter is ugly, but you still speak up for him. Are you really my father or not?" In the eyes of women, fat was ugly. This had already risen to the level of a personal attack by Fang Yan. All right. Yi Daoling raised his hand in surrender. "I'll give Fang Yan a good scolding later. Hurry up and go to school." Yezi looked at Fang Yan and said, "I won't go. I want to stay and see how you criticize him." Yi Daoling was helpless. He looked at Fang Yan and said, "You're usually quite good at talking. What's wrong with you today? Can you say that girls are fat?" "I didn't say that." Fang Yan felt even more wronged. "I'm just giving you a friendly reminder. Isn't scolding people with good intentions? Isn't it illegal to kill someone with good intentions?" You retorted. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan and asked, "How's your talk with the Qin family?" "It's pretty good." Fang Yan said with a smile, "They value me quite a bit." "Is it the Qin family that values you, or the Qin family's eldest daughter, Qin Tian, that values you?" Yi Daoling squinted his eyes and smiled as he asked, "Is there a difference?" Yi Daoling pointed at Fang Yen with his finger and said, "You brat, you don't even say a word of truth in front of third uncle." Fang Yen laughed and said, "My grandfather asked me this question and this is the only answer I have. Also, they really treat me very well." Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yen with burning eyes and asked, "Did they put forward any conditions?" Li Xinyan is a very powerful woman. She's the smartest woman I've ever seen. People like her can't be casually dismissed. She will definitely put forward all kinds of conditions to you. It's said that the Jiang family is prepared to give her the entire Chao Yen. What can you give her? I can give her loyalty and a better future for Chao Yen. Fang Yen said with a smile. She's a smart woman. She should know how to choose. Fang Yen, this war came too early. Yi Daoling sighed softly. Obviously, he didn't think that Fang Yen and his companions had any chance of winning against a century-old clan like the Jiang family. Then why did you invite me to eat fried liver? Fang Yen put down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth with a napkin. We all came from Swallow Dock. What's wrong with me inviting you to a meal? Does the people outside still have an opinion on this matter? Many people like you are willing to invite me to a meal. The Jiang family will reevaluate my value and power. They will think about what they can gain by fighting someone like me. Or rather, what they will lose. If the loss is greater than the value of the gain, I'm sure they will reconsider this matter. Yi Daoling nodded and said, I don't have any power, but I can ride the sword. The way to borrow power is very important. You should grasp it well. Many people are like me. They are willing to invite you to a meal, but they are also like me. They don't want to mess with you. I understand. Fang Yen looked like he had learned something and said, I'm already very grateful. Have you seen, sir? No. Fang Yen said. You should see, sir. Yi Daoling said. Fang Yen thought for a moment and nodded. I was negligent. And it's not too late. After breakfast, Yi Daoling had to go to work. He asked Yi Zi if she wanted to go to school. He could give her a ride. Yi Zi shook her head. She wouldn't be in a good mood today. It would be a waste of time to go to school. Yi Daoling smiled and told Ruan Jing to accompany Fang Yen. He took his driver to work. Yi Daoling left and there was no need for Fang Yen to stay. When he was about to get up and leave, Yi Zi shouted, Fang Yen. Fang Yen was shocked. He thought that this little girl wouldn't be looking for trouble, right? He looked at Yi Zi apologetically and said, I really didn't say you were fat, nor did I think you were ugly. I always thought that you and your sister are the most beautiful pair of twins in Swallow Dock. Even in the entire Yanjing you can be ranked in the top 3. My sister and I are in the top 3. Who is in the top 3? Yi Zi blinked and asked. Fang Yen thought about it and said, Then give it to Qini Tian? No. Yi Zi said angrily. Although she is indeed very beautiful, I must stand on my sister's side. Fang Yen, why do you have to live in Qini Tian's villa? Because I can't live there. Fang Yen said with a smile. Yi Zi thought about it and said with a red face, Why don't you come to my house? Seeing that Fang Yen didn't speak, Yi Zi stamped her feet angrily and said, It's not like you haven't lived there before. How about next time? I'm going back to Huaqing. Fang Yen said. Yi Zi was still a little unhappy and said, Then it's a deal. Next time you come to my house. You are not allowed to live in Qini Tian's house. My sister is not here. I have to help her look after you. Fang Yen smiled bitterly and said, Why are you looking at me? You should go to school quickly. Sitting in the car on the way back, Ruan Jing suddenly asked, Fang Yen, do you like Yi Zi? Fang Yen was stunned and said, What are you thinking? I have nothing to do with Yi Zi. No, she is Yi Gentle's sister. That's our relationship. I feel that she likes you. Ruan Jing said. Fang Yen sneered and said, You don't even dare to fall in love. How can you say, I feel? Fang Yen first went home to visit his grandfather and mother. Seeing Fang Yen back, his mother was very happy and went out with a small basket. She said that she would go to the back mountain to pick some fruits and vegetables and cook something delicious for Fang Yen in the evening. Fang Hui's spirit was better than the last time Fang Yen came back, and his eyes were much brighter. After Lu Wan went out with the basket, Fang Hui waved to Fang Yen and said, Fang Yen, come to the ancestral hall with me. Okay, Grandpa. Fang Yen nodded and pushed Fang Hui's wheelchair to the ancestral hall. Because there were not many people in the Fang family, the ancestral hall was quite quiet. After Fang Yen went in, he cleaned the dust on the altar table and lit the incense in front of the ancestral tablets of the Fang family. Then he knelt on the cattail hassock on the ground and looked at the tablet of his father, Fang Yixing, in silence for a long time. Talk to your father. Fang Huwei sat next to him and said, "You can hear me?" Fang Yin didn't respond. He looked at the black and white photo of his father on the tablet and fell into memory. The strict and gentle man, the man who was not good at expressing his feelings, the man who urged his wife to call him every time he missed his son, the man who loved painting but was despised by the people of Swallow Dock all his life, the man who would rather die than surrender and wanted to stop the murderer. He was gone. It became a scar in his heart, an emotional cancer that spread all over his body. No advanced equipment could remove it. "I know what you are doing and how dangerous it is." Fang Huwei looked at the back of Fang Yan's head and said in a hoarse but sonorous voice, "I really want to tell you to give up and come back to Swallow Dock. But if the hatred has blossomed and borne fruit, even Swallow Dock can't protect us. Your father, he is a painful lesson. Our Fang family has only one son for many generations, and it is the same in your generation. If you are alive, the Fang family still has hope. If you are not alive, the Fang family will be cut off from now on. Fang Yin, I don't have any other request. I just hope you can come back safely." Fang Huwei's eyes were wet and soon they were full of tears. The wrinkles on his face were like sharp knives stabbing Fang Yan's heart. He didn't hide his feelings. This old man, who was strong and had never bowed to anyone, sobbed and said, "Come back alive." Chapter 797. Fang Huwei had never begged anyone in his life, but this time he was pleading with Fang Yin, begging him to come back alive. Come back alive. Only those who had truly experienced life and death would be able to feel the weight of these 4 words. "Fang Yin, you must come back alive." Fang Huwei's body trembled violently because he was crying too hard. Big drops of tears rolled down his cheeks. "I'm old and I may leave at any time. If you're gone, your mother can't live either. I'm alone with a widowed mother and I'm the only child. If you're gone, the Fang family will be disbanded." Fang Yin turned around and kowtowed to Fang Huwei, banging his head hard on the faded wooden floor of the ancestral hall. His eyes were red and he said in a hoarse voice, "Grandpa, I promise you I'll come back alive. You won't leave and the Fang family won't be disbanded. Our Fang family will get better and better, flourish and prosper. You must also live well. Live to see me marry a wife and have children. Live to see your grandchildren surround your knees." Fang Huwei reached out and stroked Fang Yan's head, saying, "Then it's settled?" "It's settled." Fang Yan nodded. "I won't go and you're not allowed to go. Every single member of the Fang clan, every single one of them will never leave again." "Good boy," Fang Huwei said with a gratified face. The old man took out a folded handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the tears on his face. He looked at Fang Yan, who was kneeling in front of him and crying, and shouted, "What are you crying for? A man doesn't easily shed tears. If you were to weep like a girl, what would that look like? Are you still Fang Huwei's grandson? Get up for me and wipe away my tears. If your mom sees this, she'll cry again. Be careful, I'll whip you when that happens." Fang Yin hurriedly climbed up from the ground and stared at the old man, who was as fragile as a candle in the wind and could be extinguished at any time, with a face full of astonishment. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a stern face and loudly criticized his grandson for being a sissy. This old man used to be from Qingqing sect, right? His main specialty was to learn the unique skill of changing faces. Fang Huwei threw the handkerchief in his hand to Fang Yin and said, "Wipe the horse urine off your face. Smile, smile more naturally. Your mother went to the garden to pick vegetables and should be back soon." Fang Yin wiped his face with a handkerchief and said, "Then I'll go pick her up." "Go." Old Master Fang waved his hand and said, "Spend more time with her. Your mother has a stubborn personality and likes to keep everything to herself. You have to talk to her. It would be best if you could convince her to bring her to Huaqing to stay for a period of time. Why are you always accompanying an old man like me?" "Grandpa, my mother won't go to Huaqing," Fang Yin said with a wry smile. "I've called her countless times, but I couldn't persuade her to stay there for a few days." "Yes." Fang Huwei sighed. "I'm not dead yet. If I die, she'll be free." "Grandpa, didn't we agree just now?" Fang Yin said anxiously. Fang Huwei grinned and said, "A married daughter is like water that has been poured out. Lu Gang, that arrogant old man, wants to take his daughter back now, but there's no way. Shawan is a member of our Fang family now, so she's a member of our Fang family. I have to live and live well. I can't die just to fight with old man Lu." Fang Yin nodded with a smile and said, "That's right. Grandpa often says that you're a reckless man, but he looks down on you from the bottom of his heart. You have to live well and see who lives longer." "That's settled then." Fang Huwei laughed. I'll call old man Lu later and tell him that I look down on such a stupid intellectual. He thinks he's great just because he can read a few words. I want to compete with him to see who lives the longest. Seeing that his grandpa Fang Huwei had untied the knot in his heart and was truly happy, Fang Yan was a little relieved. Having an old man in the family was like having a treasure. Although the current pillar of the Fang family was Fang Yan, Fang Huwei's life was of great significance to Fang Yan. As Fang Huwei had said, if Fang Yan was gone, he and Fang Yan's mother Lu Wan would probably die. How could it not be the same for Fang Yan? I'm going to pick up my mother, Fang Yan said with a smile. Fang Huwei waved his hand and said, Go. It's getting colder. Winter is coming. Yes, winter is coming, Fang Yan said with a smile. Before Fang Yan could step out of the courtyard, he saw his mother Lu Wan coming back. Beside her was the little girl, Qingji. The two of them, one in front and one behind, seemed to be arguing about something. Madam, just help me carry the basket. It's heavy and will tire you out, Qingji said anxiously. You're really stupid. We're already at home, why are you still arguing with me? I've been planting vegetables for years. How can carrying a basket be a heavy job? Do you think I'll tire myself out? But, no buts. It's rare for Fang Yan to come back. I want to cook a few dishes for him personally. But you can cook if I bring the vegetables back. Silly girl, the vegetables were planted by me, and I was also the one who picked them. I'm satisfied to bring them back and cook them for my son. It's rare for me to want to do something, but you keep talking around me. Be careful, I'll find you a husband. Madam, I won't go out of the Fang family. I still have to serve you and take care of the children for Fang Yan when he gets married. Lu Wan smiled gently and said, I don't know when he can get married. If I can see that day earlier, I'll be relieved. Isn't Fang Yan in love with Miss Wenro? The whole Swallow Dock knows about it. Lu Wan sighed softly and said, with the current situation of the Fang family, I'm afraid that the Yi family will make things difficult for Fang Yan. Seeing Fang Yan standing in the yard, Lu Wan quickly changed the topic and said, Fang Yan, why are you standing here? Why don't you talk to Grandpa? When you're not at home, he keeps talking about you. Every day he holds the mobile phone you gave him, but he refuses to call you. Fang Yan took the basket from his mother and said, Grandpa asked me to pick you up. He's afraid that you'll be tired. Qingji quickly explained, I'm going to help my mother carry the basket. Fang Yan looked at Qingji with a smile and said, I know. Qingji is a very considerate person. But my mother is right. It's time to find a husband for Qingji. Qingji blushed and ran to the yard first. She said, I'm going to the kitchen to cook. Fang Yan looked at Lu Wan's ruddy cheeks and asked, Mom, are you tired? Lu Wan shook her head and held Fang Yan's arm. She said, I'm cooking a meal for my son. How can I be tired? Fang Yan nodded and looked at his mother Lu Wan. He said, Mom, don't worry. I'll marry Wenro and make her your wife. Lu Wan beamed with joy and said, Good, good. I believe you. It's not lively enough if we don't have a family. You can have more children. I'll try my best, Fang Yan said with a smile. When Yi Ro was reading in the room, Yi Fengxing sneaked in and said, Sister, Fang Yan is back. Yes. Yi Ro responded lightly and said, Yezi told me on the phone. Yezi also knows? It seems that third uncle has seen Fang Yan. Do you think third uncle wants to show his support to Fang Yan? If he is willing to help, will Fang Yan's situation be better? Yi Ro raised her beautiful eyebrows and said, They don't want to help. They just stand on the shore and cheer for him when they are fighting in the sea. Is that so? Yi Fengxing scratched his head and said, If third uncle refuses to help Fang Yan, won't Fang Yan be in danger? No. Yi Ro shook her head. Why not? Because I will help him. Yi Fengxing widened his eyes and said, Sister, how will you help him? It's not like you don't know what kind of family the Jiang family is. Right now, the Jiang family is using their wealth and power to crush Fang Yan. Fang Yan is a very rich person. If you think about it this way, it's not a bad thing if Fang Yan becomes my brother-in-law. At least my sister won't have to suffer after marrying him. Yi Ro's eyes became sharp. Yi Fengxing also knew that he had gone off topic, so he quickly returned to the topic and said, Sister, it's not that we don't want to help, but with our family's wealth, even if we bet the entire Yi family, we probably won't be able to help Fang Yan. The Jiang family is too powerful, so powerful that unless the Qin family is willing to help. Otherwise, the wealth of 10 Yi families won't be a match for them. I don't want to compete with the Jiang family in wealth, Yi Ro said indifferently. We don't want to compete with them in wealth? Then how are we going to compete with them? What are we going to use to help Fang Yan? We can't stop the Jiang family's wealth, and the Jiang family can't stop my martial arts. Yi Ro's expression was calm as she spoke, as if she was talking about something that had nothing to do with her. But Yi Fengxing knew very well that when she said something like that, she would really do it. I'll go kill everyone in the Jiang family and then everything will be fine, right? Sister. Yi Fengxing was so scared that his chubby face turned pale and red. Don't do anything stupid. If you do that, our family will be finished. That's something we need to consider after we kill everyone in the Jiang family, Yi Ro said firmly. Chapter 798. Yi Fengxing and Fang Yan were good brothers, very very good brothers. When Fang Yan was in danger, he was the first to stand up for him. He was willing to help him and he was willing to fight for him, even to the point of dying in battle. However, he had never thought of using such an extreme method to drag the entire Yi family out to fight the Jiang family. This was the thought process of men and women. Men would consider the honor of their family, the continuation of their bloodline, and the safety of their parents. They were willing to sacrifice themselves, but they would never drag their entire family down with them. However, women only needed to consider one thing: whether it was worth doing and whether they should do it. Yi Ro was very angry that someone bullied Fang Yan, so she wanted to punish those bad people who bullied her man. How could they not be bad people if they bullied her man? Yi Ro was at the heavenly Tao realm. If she wanted to do such a thing, it was very likely that she would really do it. The world was huge, but there were very few heavenly Tao realm experts. Unless the divine dragon personally interfered, or no one could stop Yi Ro. It was because he knew his cousin's character that she definitely wasn't joking. It was also because he knew her abilities that although Yi Fengxing didn't know that Yi Ro had successfully climbed the heavenly Tao, it was still easy for her to succeed with her current abilities. When that happened, Yi Ro's actions would be a devastating blow to the Yi family that had just risen in power. No country or person would allow such force to do such a thing. Sis, can you stop joking? Yi Fengxing's face was filled with horror. How can you say that it's something to be considered later? If you really kill everyone in the Jiang family, our Yi family will be destroyed as well. Yi Ro glanced at Yi Fengxing and said, I can choose not to do it. As long as they stop attacking Fang Yan, Yi Ro said. You can bring my words to the Jiang family. Or you can find someone to bring my words to the Jiang family. Sis, others will think we're crazy. Crazy? Yi Ro flipped open the book she was reading again and said with her head lowered, Women are much more terrifying than crazy. Yi Fengxing was thinking about how to persuade his sister to give up on this idea when he heard the sound of a car horn outside. Soon it was noisy outside the courtyard. Yi Fengxing greeted Yi Ro and said, Sister, someone might be back. I'll go out and have a look. Yi Ro looked up at him and then buried her eyes in the book in her hands again. Yi Fengxing didn't come back, but after a while, a servant came to ask Yi Ro to go out for dinner. Yi Ro closed the book and looked out of the window. Winter came and the plants withered. However, the 2 frangipani he planted were lush and would carry a delicate fragrance with the breeze. Who will come? Yi Ro thought to herself. When there were no family members at home, they would eat in the small dining room. But when there were guests at home, they would eat in the hall. Today they were having dinner in the living room, which proved that there were indeed guests at home. Yi Ro rarely paid attention to this matter. Most of the time she just asked someone to send food to her room. But for some reason, her mind was exceptionally sensitive today. When Yi Ro walked to the door of the living room, she was stunned. There were no guests, but almost all the direct descendants of the Yi family were present. The patriarch sat at the head of the table, and beside him sat a few members of the Yi family's grandparents' generation. Father Yi Daowen, second uncle Yi Daoling, third uncle Yi Daoxian were all present. There were also Yi Fengxing and a few juniors sitting at another table. Second uncle was busy with work and seldom came home. Third uncle Yi Daoxian was busy improving the Yi family style so that it could be promoted and tested in the military special forces. He did not return home all year round, but today they were all back. Yi Ro hesitated slightly before walking towards the table where Yi Fengxing and company were sitting. Ro! Yi Daoling shouted. He waved at her and said with a warm smile, Come sit here. The patriarch has something to ask you. Yi Ro thought for a moment and walked towards the head table. The other juniors were not surprised at all. It was no secret in the Yi family that the patriarch favored Yi Ro. Everyone was already used to it. Yi Ro was indeed outstanding. Ignoring everything else, just her martial arts alone was enough to suppress them to the point of suffocation. In their hearts they were convinced by this. Furthermore, Yiro was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She did not show any courtesy to outsiders, but she was extremely good to her family. Her brothers and sisters at home also liked her very much. Yiro sat at the end of the table, diagonally opposite the patriarch. The patriarch looked at Yiro lovingly and said with concern, "Ro, are you reading in your room again today?" "Yes, patriarch," Yiro said with a nod. "I know you are working hard, so I did not disturb you. I got someone to send some fruits over. You didn't forget to eat them, right?" "I ate them." "That's good. Girls eating more fruits is good for their bodies and skin. Although we Ro practice martial arts, our skin is more delicate than those rich young ladies who do not touch the sun. This is our capital as a woman." Patriarch. Yi Daoling had no choice but to interrupt the patriarch's concern. If she was allowed to continue developing, there was probably no need to eat today's meal. "Why don't we first discuss that matter with Ro? You are so impatient." The patriarch looked at Yi Daoling with a complaining look and said, "No matter how Ro looks like, she is my good child." I know. Yi Daoling nodded repeatedly. "She is also our good child. Everyone dotes on her. Isn't everyone right?" Yi Daoling was worried that the patriarch would hold a grudge against him, so he wanted to drag some of his allies into the water. To his disappointment, no one stood up to respond to him. Yi Daoling laughed dryly and looked at Yiro and said, Ro, have you entered the heavenly law?" This question made many people present show a surprised expression. When did this happen? Yiro climbing the heavenly law was the top priority of the Yi family. Everyone in the Yi family had their hearts in their throats. Unfortunately, there were some changes in the end. Yiro failed to climb the heavenly law, but her life was saved by Fang Yan. Of course, this was what Fang Yan and Yiro said. Anyway, most people in the Yi family would not believe it. Yiro failed to climb the heavenly law and suffered a backlash from the heavenly law. Her body was weak for a period of time. Until now, she stayed at home all day to recuperate. Even her daily training had been suspended. Everyone was worried that they would hurt Yiro, so they did not even mention the heavenly law in front of her. Now that the family was gathered together, why did they mention the matter of climbing the heavenly law? Yi Fengxing stared at everything that was happening around him. Second uncle was back and so was his father. The important elders of the family had appeared, and the juniors of the direct line of descent were all present. Now, everyone was waiting for an answer? Was Yiro a heavenly Dao realm expert? Of course not. If she was a heavenly Dao realm expert, wouldn't the Jiang family be in for a bad time? Brother Fengxing, you are usually close to sister Ro. Do you know about this? What's going on? Ro succeeded in climbing the heavenly law? Didn't she just fail a while ago? Did she do it a second time? Isn't it too risky? I think it should be true. Otherwise, it's impossible for second uncle and third uncle to return at the same time. Yi Fengxing shook his head and said, I don't know about this either. Everyone looked at Yiro with concern. Everyone's eyes were focused on Yiro's face. Yiro didn't even look at their faces. She turned a blind eye to their gazes as she looked at Yi Daoling with an indifferent expression. She nodded and said, That's right. What? The entire room was alarmed. Pleasant surprise, horror, envy, admiration, and curiosity. How long had it been since the last time she failed to climb the heavenly Dao? How did she suddenly become a heavenly Dao realm expert? Even Yi Daoling, who had asked the question, was momentarily stunned. He looked at Yiro in disbelief and said, Ro, you can't joke around. Is this true? Yiro looked at Yi Daoling and said, Have I ever joked with you? Not really. Yi Daoling chuckled as his eyes narrowed into a slit. It was your third uncle who received some news and called me to confirm it. I said that I didn't even know about this. After a discussion, we decided to personally rush back to discuss it with you. After pondering for a moment, Yi Daoling looked at Yiro and asked, When did this happen? We didn't hear anything about it. You didn't fail the last time, right? I failed the last time, Yiro said. And then you tried again? Yi Daoling frowned. Ro, I know you are competitive and you aren't willing to admit defeat so easily. But such matters still need a gradual cycle. You can't rush it or else problems will easily occur. I failed to climb the heavenly Dao. It was Fang Yan who saved me, Yiro said. He suffered the backlash of the heavenly Dao himself, but he helped me become a heavenly Dao realm expert. What? The hall was in an uproar once again as everyone discussed the matter. Chapter 799. Cowhide couldn't wrap up the awesome, and paper couldn't wrap up Fang Huohua. The fact that Yi Rou had become a heavenly Tao master was known by others. Even after the death of Tao addict Song transplanting, both parties wanted to hide it. It was originally a fierce battle in the forest and not many people knew about it. Fang Yan and Yi Rou wanted to preserve their strength to prevent the Yi family from setting up more obstacles between them. So after Yi Rou broke through the obstacle and became a heavenly Tao master, they still didn't persuade the Yi family. They only said that Yi Rou failed to break through and suffered a huge backlash from the heavenly Tao and needed to rest. Bailey Lu was Fang Yan's partner. He naturally wouldn't tell others what Fang Yan didn't want to say. Jiang Junling wouldn't say it to others. It was a great shame to be expelled by the family. His master, who he relied on as a shield, was also killed by Yi Rou. Yes, although his master was shot to death by Fang Yan, he still subconsciously thought that his master was killed by Yi Rou. This was because Fang Yan was a shameless ****. With his mediocre martial arts, how could he possibly lay a finger on his master? The most unacceptable thing was that Song transplanting was killed by Fang Yan with a gun. People often said that the person who raised the eagle was pecked blind by the eagle. However, this was already a great honor in the eyes of Jiang Junling. If he was like his master who pursued martial arts all his life and pursued the peak power in the world, but was killed by a rogue with a gun, wouldn't it be a joke? The death of Tao addict Song transplanting seedlings was a fatal blow to the side of General Ling. They didn't want such a secret to spread. The poor Tao addict Song transplanting was a scum of a generation. After his death, no one knew about it. Because he was too excited, Yi Daoling almost stood up from his chair. He looked at Yi Rou in surprise and said, "Why didn't you say such a big thing earlier?" "That's right. Why didn't you say such an important thing?" Yi Daowen was shocked at first and now he was ecstatic. His daughter had become a heavenly Tao realm expert, so he had become a heavenly Tao realm expert. Her father, he felt like he was much more powerful than a heavenly Tao realm expert. The last time you failed to climb the heavenly axiom, everyone's hearts were hanging in suspense for you. Recently, no one in the family has talked about that matter for fear of touching your sore spot. Ting, this kind of thing should not be hidden. This is the honor of our Yi family, and also the honor of our Swallow Dock. Apart from Mo Qingdi from decades ago, another heavenly Tao realm expert has appeared in our Swallow Dock. Furthermore, it's a heavenly Tao realm expert who's even younger than Mo Qingdi from back then. How can we keep it a secret? I don't want to say it. Yi Rou looked at everyone's probing eyes expressionlessly. She didn't intend to explain seriously. Why don't you want to talk about it? This is... Yi Daowen still wanted to say something, but the great ancestor could no longer listen. He angrily interrupted his reprimand and said, "Wenwen said that she doesn't want to say it. Why are you forcing her? She was a heavenly Tao realm expert, so it was a joyous matter. Just because she's not a heavenly Tao realm expert, does that mean she's not your daughter?" "Great ancestor, that's not what I meant. I just felt that this matter should be made known so that everyone can have some fun." Yi Daowen hurriedly apologized and said, "You also know that Wenwen failed to climb the heavenly axiom the last time. Everyone was burdened with immense pressure because of her. The Yi family was also mocked by others, saying that we don't know the immensity of the world. Why bother with the gossip of others? Does our Yi family need others to point fingers at us when we do things?" The great ancestor's tone turned more impatient as he said, "The next time someone dares to do such a thing, just go up and smack him in the face. He doesn't know how to live up to expectations and doesn't properly practice his martial arts. Instead, he makes sarcastic remarks about the hard work of others. Such people won't amount to much their entire lives." "Yes," Yi Daowen replied respectfully. Yi Daoxian was from the military, and he had the deepest and most unyielding features among the three brothers. He sat there like a handsome statue, and in terms of bearing he was much better than his son. Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen with bright eyes and asked, "You said that Fang Yan helped you withstand the backlash of the heavenly axiom? What's going on?" Yi Wen didn't respond. She had already recounted what had happened, so she didn't wish to repeat it again. Yi Daoling understood Yi Wen's character, so he hurriedly explained, "Wenwen encountered a heavenly tribulation when she was climbing the heavenly axiom. That stage was originally impossible to cross. Touching the power of the heavenly axiom, if one isn't able to kick down the door and cross it, one would be punished by the power of the heavenly axiom. Wenwen's situation was very dangerous back then, and that punk, Fang Yan, ran over noisily to find Wenwen. Elder brother and I tried our best to stop him, and even our Yi family's door was smashed by that punk. We were originally worried that he would disturb Wenwen's ascension, but who knew that by a freak combination of factors he saved Wenwen's life. At the most dangerous moment, Fang Yan used his heart of Taiji to withstand the backlash of the heavenly axiom. It's said that even now that Punk's heart of Taiji can't be used normally. For this, the Yi family's patriarch often came to our house to have a chat with our patriarch, saying that their Fang family risked their lives for our Yi family, so our Yi family can't do such heartless things. Yi Daoxian nodded, but his gaze was still on Yi Wen's face. He asked, "Can the backlash of the heavenly axiom be endured by someone else?" Yes. Yi Wen nodded. He knew that this uncle was discussing this problem with him from a scholarly point of view. After all, he was currently improving and streamlining the Yi family style, and then promoting it to Wuxia's special forces. What's the trick? The person who bears the backlash knows how to use the heart of Taiji. Yi Wen answered. Yi Daoxian found it difficult to continue, so the topic came to an end. Yi Daoling looked at Yi Wen in delight and said, "Wen has become a heavenly Dao realm expert. Our Yi family also has a heavenly Dao realm expert. This matter needs to be celebrated. Patriarch, don't you think so?" Yes, it needs to be celebrated. Yi Daoling echoed his elder brother's actions. This is a joyous occasion. Not stealing or robbing, but relying on one's own hard work and talent to climb the heavenly axiom at such a young age. The entire Swallow Fort should celebrate this matter for 3 days. Elder brother, communicate with Mr. about this matter. I believe Mr. will be happy to see the rise of an outstanding young man. That's right. Back then, when Mo Qingdi succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, Mr. had the entire village celebrate for 3 days. Wen can't lose to Mo Qingdi's procession back then, right? A white-haired old man beside the patriarch said. This matter will quickly spread to Beijing and then to the entire country. The patriarch looked worriedly at Yi Wen and asked, "Wen, what do you think?" Yi Wen understood the patriarch's concern as she looked at him with a gentle voice and said, "Let them like it." All right. Only then did the patriarch feel relieved. Seeing the person in question, Yi Wen agreed to the matter. Everyone in the room laughed. Everyone felt joyous and joyous. Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen and said, "Has Fang Yan returned?" "I heard that he has returned." Yi Xiaojun, who was beside Yi Fengxing, said, "Someone saw him pushing Grandpa for a stroll by Stone River." Yes. Yi Daoxian frowned and said, "I heard that Fang Yan and the general family are fighting intensely? To the death." Yi Daoling gave an appropriate evaluation. He said, "The last time Mr. brought Fang Yan to visit the general family, it was to denounce Fang Yan, and also to put an end to this matter on Fang Yan's behalf. However, the general family's old patriarch would rather banish the offending grandson from the family than let the matter rest. This time, the general family attacked in anger, naturally with the intention of not stopping until one side is dead." Yi Daoxian shook his head lightly and said, "The general family, they have a lot of business. Although Fang Yan has some talent, he has just started out and will most likely die in this battle. I don't think he will win." After a pause, Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen and said, "Wen, I know that Fang Yan has helped you before and I've heard some things between the two of you. However, you cannot get involved in this matter. If possible, you must keep your distance from Fang Yan. This matter is no longer just a fight between Fang Yan and a junior of the general family, but a fight against the entire general family corporation. We need to focus on our own development. There is no need to fight against that group of people." Yi Daowen deeply agreed and said, "Wen, your uncle is right. Fang Yan is a good child and a very talented martial artist, but the two of you are not suited for each other. Since it is fated that you will not be able to be together in the future, then it is better to sever this relationship as soon as possible. In the future, Daddy will find you someone more suitable. Is that all right?" Yi Daoling smiled without a word, but his eyes were paying attention to the changes in Yi Wen's expression. Yi Wen's expression did not change at all. She looked at her father before looking at Yi Daoxian and said, "There is no such thing as compatibility. If I like him, then he is suitable. If I don't like him, then he is not suitable." "You child," Yi Daowen was somewhat angry. To have his own words rebutted by his daughter in front of so many people, it did not look good on him either. "I will marry Fang Yan. I want to marry him." Yi Wen's voice was gentle and firm, but her tone had an unquestionable power. "No. That's impossible, Yi Wen." The voices came from different members of the Yi family, as though every member of the Yi family had a reason to strongly oppose this matter. Yi Fengxing's heart was about to leap to his throat, as though he could spit it out with a burp. "I will not allow this to happen," Yi Daowen said with an overbearing attitude. "You are so silly," Yi Wen said as she looked at her father. "In the past you could not stop me. Now that I am a heavenly Dao realm expert, How can you stop me? Chapter 800. You're such a fool. These 3 words were like a powerful atomic bomb being dropped on the dining hall of the Yi family. The noisy scene suddenly quietened down, and the lively discussion instantly stopped. Everyone looked at Yi Ro with astonishment, looking at the girl who said, "You're such a fool," to her father. The Yi family was a traditional family. Like other families in Swallow Dock, they all implemented the patriarchal system. The juniors had to be respectful when speaking to the elders. Even if the elders said something wrong, they couldn't refute them directly. What was Yi Ro doing? No one said a word. They even tried to suppress their breathing. Everyone stared at Yi Ro, at Yi Daowen, who had been countered by Yi Ro. Yi Daowen was the patriarch of the Yi family. He represented the dignity and face of the Yi family. He represented the Yi family's attitude towards a certain person or thing. Now, what kind of punishment was he going to give to Yi Ro, who had disobeyed him? Yi Daowen's expression was extremely gloomy. Because of his anger, the veins on his fists bulged. His eyes were fixed on Yi Ro. He stared at the daughter he had always treated as a treasure. Just now, what did she say to him? Yi Daowen wasn't a man who hadn't experienced many trials and tribulations, and because of his long years of practicing martial arts, his temperament and self-restraint could be considered first class. However, being slapped in the face by his own daughter in front of so many people, he still had a hard time accepting it. How did that sentence come about? Only the person you love can hurt you the most. That was exactly what he was feeling at this moment. Yi Ro. Yi Daowen tried hard to calm the anger in his heart. He tried his best to make his voice dignified and gentle. What did you mean by those words just now? I'm saying that you can't stop me. Yi Ro's expression didn't change at all. On the contrary, one could see her calmness and sincerity in her eyes. She wasn't hypocritical and she hated hypocrisy. She thought of this and said it directly. In the past you couldn't stop me. Even if I wasn't a Heavenly Dao realm expert back then, when I wanted to marry Fang Yan, I would definitely marry Fang Yan. As long as he was willing to marry me. Now I'm a Heavenly Dao realm expert. I have greater power and autonomy. If I want to marry Fang Yan, I will marry Fang Yan. This was following his own temperament and obeying the rules of the Heavenly Dao. Even the heavens won't stop me, let alone you. I'm your father, and you don't consider my attitude at all? I've thought about it and I've been troubled by it. It's also because I've considered your attitude and the Yi family's attitude that I've decided to hide the fact that I've succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom. Gentle, don't get too excited. Yi Daoxian wanted to smooth things over between the father and daughter. He was worried that their relationship would become even more strained, and it would be difficult to clean up when the time came. Your father is doing this for your own good. He hopes that you can consider the position and attitude of the Yi family. It's for my own good, Yi Ro said. I also hope that he can consider my feelings and my future. He's my father. Isn't that what he's supposed to do? What kind of father would let his daughter sacrifice for the family without caring about his daughter's feelings? It's not that your father doesn't consider you, but the Yi family's position and your choice are contradictory, so I have to compromise and turn a blind eye to everything that the man I like has encountered? The corners of Yi Ro's mouth curled up as she revealed a mocking smile. If that's the case, what's the point of me climbing the heavenly axiom? I can't even abide by the human path and I still want to borrow the power of the heavenly axiom. Isn't that going against the heavens? Yi Daoling understood Yi Ruru's character. He knew that there was no way to discuss this matter today. He smiled and said, Okay. Ruru has her own considerations. The Yi family also has their own position. We need to discuss this matter in the long run. There is no need to rush it now. Regardless, today is a joyous day for our Yi family. Ro has succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, and she's the youngest heavenly axiom expert in Swallow Dock and even the entire Wuxia. Our Yi family has a reason to celebrate. Yi Daoling looked at the patriarch and said, Patriarch, shall we have dinner? The patriarch didn't wish to see the family's internal strife either, so he nodded and said, Let's have dinner. All sorts of exotic delicacies surged onto the dining table like flowing water. Jar after jar of shadaozi were broken, emitting a rich fragrance of alcohol. The atmosphere in the hall turned lively once again, but everyone felt that the atmosphere was a little off. Qin Chang sat in the middle of the Qin family's juniors. He raised the teacup in front of him and said with a smile, Brothers, have you ever gone back and told your parents that the Qin family can't save Fang Yan this time? Who is Fang Yan? He has nothing to do with our Qin family, so why would our Qin family risk our lives for an insignificant person? Can we not say it? But it's useless even if we say it. That woman rejected the Jiang family's settlement agreement. She's clearly helping that punk. You can't say that the punk has nothing to do with our Qin family. He's the man Qin Etienne likes. Qin Etienne usually puts on a cold face in front of us. She doesn't think anything of us brothers, but she's dead set on a wild man outside. She clearly knows that he already has a girlfriend, yet she's willing to be his mistress. Doesn't she have any shame? Qin Chang waited for everyone to vent for a while before he rubbed the rim of his teacup and analyzed the situation. This is a huge matter. It's a matter of life and death for our Qin family. I've asked around at the Jiang family's side. They are bent on killing Fang Yan this time. And I heard that it was personally decided by the Jiang family's patriarch, and it was handed over to the Jiang family, who has been in the limelight recently. Tell me, for our Qin family to wrestle with them at this moment, if we don't control it well, the two families will end up in a life and death situation. What? For benefits. But even if we get rid of the Jiang family, how much benefits can we get? Who knows, at that time our Qin family's strength will be greatly damaged, and the Huang family, Li family and Qin family will take advantage of us. We in the Jiang family usually mind our own business. It's not that we don't have small fights, but that's only courtesy demands reciprocity. This time, the seriousness of the matter is extraordinary. If the Qin family really goes to war with the Jiang family, those two women will be the sinners of the Qin family. But at that time, will it be too late for us to complain? We can only stop it before it happens. Qin Chang had 10,000 reasons to hate Fang Yan. Of course, he hated Li Xinyan and Qin Etienne, who stood behind Fang Yan, even more. The conflict with Jun Xiepu last time was actually a flashpoint of his dissatisfaction with the two women who controlled the Qin family's power. Whether it was Li Xinyan or the new generation of Qin Etienne, they were both rare business prodigies that only appeared once in 100 years. Because of this, some people even joked that because the Qin family's women took advantage of the Qin family's feng shui, the men of the Qin family were all idiots. In all honesty, was Qin Chang an idiot? Take a closer look, how could he be an idiot? This time, Li Xinyan refused the gift from the Jiang family, causing a huge split within the Qin family. Qin Chang and the other like-minded people saw the opportunity and wanted to make a big move. It would be best if they could push down Li Xinyan and Qin Etienne. Qin Chang, you have the most ideas among us. Tell us what to do, we'll all follow you. Qin Yi shouted. That's right. We don't have much strength. We can't even say a few words before the elders in the family scolded us. I think we should stick together. Qin Guan echoed. In any case, I don't want to go to war with the Jiang family, and I don't want to go to war with the Jiang family for an outsider. Qin Chang waved his hand. It's not that there's no way. But as Qin Guan said, we don't have the strength to fight alone. As you all know, the Qin family is divided into two factions. One is for peace, and they agree to the Jiang family's agreement in exchange for all of Chao Yan's benefits. The other faction is for war. Although they didn't explicitly say that they want to go to war with the Jiang family, the Qin family rejected the Jiang family's offer. Isn't it clear that they want to go to war? Under the control and influence of those two women, my father is currently contacting the uncles in the family, as well as some of the direct descendants of the family who hold important positions in various businesses. He's prepared to force the Jiang family to abdicate. Force that woman to abdicate. As long as she abdicates, the conflict between the Qin family and the Jiang family will be easily resolved. I support you. Qin Guan nodded. I'll also convince my father and grandfather to support you. I support you as well. Let the woman go back to nursing her child. If Qin Etienne really likes Fang Yan, he can marry into the Fang family. It's time for the men of the Qin family to stand up and take responsibility. The vision of women is still too shallow. Qin Chang smiled vaguely as he looked at his companions in the family who had been incited by him. Fang Yan, you're just an insignificant target. Our true targets are those two women. Their existence is too dazzling and we're too embarrassed. As a man of a family like the Qin family, you should be able to understand our situation, right? But who told them to like you? Many times, liking someone is a mistake. Chapter 801. Junling Clubhouse. Li Junling accompanied a few familiar guests for a drink before she gracefully stood up and said with a smile, "You guys have a good drink. I'm going backstage to prepare. I'll be playing a song on stage later." What else does Junling need to prepare? Your piano skills are so high. If we talk about a single instrument, even that music addict who's been playing it to perfection isn't as good as you, right? Qin Shuang said with a smile. Go do what you need to do. We'll take care of ourselves. I'll treat your place like my own home. If Music Addicts fans hear this, they won't let me off easily," Li Junling said with a smile. She patted her best friend Qin Shuang's hand and said, "See you in a bit." "See you in a bit." Li Junling warmly greeted every friend she met and nodded to those who were a bit further away. Elegant and graceful, yet dignified. The style of the piano goddess is indeed extraordinary. It's a pity that she's going to marry the one from the Qin family. He's really not much. It's just a pile of sh*t. As long as it comes from the Qin family, it's more nutritious than the sh*t outside. Some people in the clubhouse praised Li Junling's beauty and extraordinary temperament, but even more people mocked and ridiculed the young master of the Qin family who was going to marry Li Junling. Saying the grapes are sour when you can't eat them was the AQ spirit of self-consolation. Li Junling didn't know what others were saying and didn't care. After she told the bodyguard at the door, she pushed open the wooden door of her private resting room. Near the window of the room stood a stalwart man in a white shirt. His facial expression couldn't be seen clearly, but just the side profile was enough to make people feel that he was extraordinarily handsome. Broad shoulders, thin waist, slender legs. His body proportion was comparable to that of a top male model. Li Junling's heart was filled with sweetness. She walked forward and hugged the man's waist from behind. She pressed her face against the man's strong back and said, "You've been so busy recently, how do you have time to come here?" "I missed you, so I came to see you," the man said in a teasing voice. Li Junling hugged the man even tighter and said, "I've always wanted to contact you, but when I found out that you went to Huaqing and heard that you were doing something so important, I resisted the urge. Besides, with our relationship, I'm not in a position to take care of you and care about you. Many times I want to do something for you, but I don't know where to start." The man was silent for a moment and said, "The wedding is getting closer, right?" "They said it was before the new year," Li Junling said in a low voice. "There are only a few good days before the new year. No matter which one he chose, it would only take him a few days. In the past he always felt that time passed too slowly and every day felt extremely long. But now I realize that time has passed too quickly. Before I could properly appreciate the day, it had already slipped away with a whoosh. I can't even hold it back." The man fell silent again. After a long time, he seemed to have made some kind of decision and said, "How about I tell Grandpa?" Li Junling smiled in a low voice and said, "This is not your style. Do you really dare to tell your grandpa about this?" "It's indeed not my style," the man squinted his eyes and smiled. "But, for the woman I like, I should always be hot-blooded for once. What's the saying again? Who doesn't have hot-blooded youth? I've never been young and I haven't done too many hot-blooded things. But for you I'm willing to take a risk." Li Junling was moved to tears, hugging the man's body tightly and said, "I know you have this kind of intention and I'm already very satisfied. Our family and the Qin family are too closely tied together. Qin Chang and I have already been engaged for a long time, and now we're at the last step. If you stand out at this time, how would they see you? How would your Jiang family see you?" "It's a bit difficult." The man's face was full of sorrow. "If I tell Grandpa about this, he'll definitely scold me for not being able to control my crotch, for not being able to take on such a heavy responsibility. The Qin family will also think that this is a great humiliation. Originally, they would have watched the dispute between our Jiang family and Fang Yan with cold eyes. After this, I'm afraid they have no choice but to come out and help Fang Yan fight against our Jiang family." I know everything," Li Junling nodded and said. "That's why I don't want to make things difficult for you. You're a very capable man and it wasn't easy for you to get to this point. I don't want you to waste all your efforts because of me. I know very well how much effort you've put in to get to this point. But I still have to give you an explanation." The man sighed softly and said, "How many years have we known each other?" 7 years. Li Junling didn't hesitate to say the correct date. 7 years ago we met at a Xiangshan charity banquet. Although we didn't say a word to each other at the banquet, when we left, we walked out one after another. We took a walk in Xiangshan from halfway up the mountain all the way to Yanjing City. I didn't ask you where you came from and you didn't ask me who I was. Then we walked until now." There was a gentle smile on the man's lips. He reached out to hold the back of Li Junling's hand and said, "Yes. 7 years from that night until now, it's been 7 years. So, it's because of this that I can't let you go so easily. You're my woman in the past and in the future. I won't allow other men to touch you, and I won't allow you to fall into the arms of other men. I can't accept it." "But, no buts." There was a cold smile on the man's lips. He said, Time, I just need a little time. After I take down Fang Yan and consolidate my position in the Jiang family, I'll bring up this matter to the old man. I want to marry you, everything will take its course. If the Qin family isn't afraid of both sides suffering, I won't hesitate to fight with them. Jun Xing, the man suddenly turned around and hugged Li Junling's thin body in his arms. Before Li Junling could say anything, her mouth was already covered by the man's. Soon, the room was filled with pleasurable yet extremely repressed moans. Outside the room, the bodyguard standing at the door was pale, and sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked at a corner in horror as if there was an ugly monster hiding there. Fang Yan finally saw Yi Rou. At that time, Fang Yan was chatting with his grandfather in the yard and heard the voices of his mother and Yi Rou talking in the front yard. The old man Fang Huwei looked at Fang Yan meaningfully and said, Rou is a filial child. She will come to see your mother and me. Although she doesn't talk much, it's easy to feel her sincerity. She even brought gifts many times. The firefox blanket I'm wearing is a gift from her. She said that the weather is getting colder and colder, and she needs a blanket to avoid getting cold. I heard that Yi Daoling brought it back from Yanjing and gave it to his ancestor, but she sent it to me. Have you talked to Rou about that? Not yet. Fang Yan shook his head. You have to find a way to solve this shameful thing yourself. I only have one request, you can't deceive Rou, Fang Huwei said seriously. I know. Fang Yan nodded heavily and said, I will find a chance to talk to her. If you can deceive her for a lifetime, you don't have to say anything. Fang Huwei blinked and added. Anyway, I want a grandson or a granddaughter. The Fang family is short of people. Not so fast. It's as easy for other people's children to give birth like a hen laying eggs. Yi Fengxing won the girl of the Bailey family without a word, and the wedding will be held on New Year's Day. He said that he already has a child. Why is it so difficult for you? Are you? Fang Huwei's eyes swept over Fang Yan's body and asked, What's the problem? While the grandfather and grandson were talking, Yi Rou had already walked over from the front yard. She glanced at Fang Yan, then took the initiative to greet Fang Huwei. She handed over the basket of pastries in her hand and said, I just made these today. I know you like them, so I packed a basket for you. Fang Huwei laughed with the basket in his arms and said, I understand what Rou means. You're sending delicious food to shut Grandpa's mouth. Okay, I won't say anything. I'm going to my room to eat pastries. You two young people can go out and have a walk. Yi Rou didn't look shy. She looked at Fang Yan and said, Let's go out for a walk. Fang Yan glanced at his grandfather and said, Grandpa, I'm going out with Rou. I'll talk to you later when I come back. Go. Fang Huwei chewed the delicious pastries and said, Can I say no? Can't you see that my mouth has been blocked by the little girl? Beside the stone river, Fang Yan and Yi Rou walked side by side on the bank. Women carrying baskets of vegetables and old men carrying hoes came back from the fields. They greeted them and laughed kindly when they saw them. The news that Fang Yan and Yi Rou were in love had long been spread in Swallow Dock. I was going to see you early tomorrow morning, Fang Yan said with a smile. I know. Yi Rou nodded. But I can't wait. In the twilight, the green mountains in the distance looked like a long ink-stained dragon. There was no bright moon in the sky, nor a star. However, Fang Yan clearly felt that his eyes were shining. The girl standing in front of him was the warmest sun in his heart. Chapter 802. But I can't wait. Yi Rou said it naturally and relaxedly. However, it was also this natural and relaxed attitude that revealed her true nature. One day seemed like 3 years. There were still several hours until tomorrow morning, but for some people these hours were longer than 1 day, 1 month, or even 1 year. Yi Rou didn't want to wait. The man she liked lived next door. She could see him in a few steps. Why should she wait until tomorrow morning? Who would care about the neighbor's slander or the man's family's contempt? As for being reserved, she wouldn't care about it. Why did the word reserved have to be imposed on women? Why didn't men know about being reserved? Fang Yan looked at Yi Rou's profile and said softly, I shouldn't wait until tomorrow morning. I should ask you out tonight and hold you in my arms. Yi Rou turned to look at Fang Yan and said, Don't. Someone is watching. You don't care about it anyway. Fang Yan held Yi Rou in his arms and let her head lean on his shoulder. He said, I can't wait to do this. I don't want to wait for a second. Rou, I didn't expect you to be so cute when you say love words. Yi Rou raised her eyebrows and asked, Did I say love words? You did. You said, but I can't wait. These words were words of love. The sweetest love words in the world. Fang Yin said with absolute certainty. Yi Rou nodded and said, so this is love words, your love words are also very nice. Fang Yin held back his laughter and asked, which love words are nicer? You said, I can't wait to do this. I don't want to wait for a second. Yi Rou said softly. I'm very happy to hear that. Hearing you say that you're happy to hear this, I'm also very happy. Yi Rou opened her mouth and gave up helplessly. She said, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Hold me tight. Yi Rou gave Fang Yin a hug, but when she saw someone walking over, she pushed him away immediately. Fang Yin felt wronged and said, do you know that in a normal relationship, if a girl does this kind of action, it will hurt a man's self-esteem? Yi Rou nodded and said, I know. But I think you're different. You're right, I'm different from them. Fang Yin grinned and said, they are all little kids. How can they be compared with a mature man like me? We are more broad-minded and can tolerate more things that young people can't bear. You are thick-skinned so you can take more blows. You shouldn't feel hurt. The corners of Yi Rou's mouth curled up with a pleasant smile. She was willing to attack Fang Yin like this and tell his friends some jokes about Fang Yan's shamelessness. Fang Yin definitely didn't know that when they were young, she was actually very envious of Fang Yan's friends wherever he went. Whether it was when he bullied her or did other bad things, there would always be a group of friends around his age who would cheer for him. Of course, there were also boos. No matter what, they all liked him very much. Even her cousin Yi Fengxing was one of them. At that time she was always alone. You misunderstand me. Fang Yin said with a bitter smile. Yi Rou stopped under an old willow tree by the river. She looked at the dark and deep river with a trace of silver floating on it and asked, Fang Yin, how are you? I'm very good. Fang Yin said with a smile. What about the Jiang family? I hope they're not so good. I knew you're this kind of person. Yi Rou's eyes brightened and her voice became light. No matter how strong your opponents are, you won't be easily defeated by them. In the past, the Qinya military department was an opponent that we had to look up to. But in the end they still lost to you. Although I know you're sincerely praising me, I still can't help but want to correct a mistake. No matter how strong my opponents are, I won't be defeated by them. You used the word easily. Using the word easily doesn't sound right. It sounds like they can defeat me if they put in a bit more effort. That's impossible. But it's still very difficult, right? Yi Rou asked. It's very difficult. The smile on Fang Yan's face gradually disappeared. He said with a heavy voice, it's not easy to be an opponent like the Jiang family. If you're not careful, you'll lose everything. That won't happen, Yi Rou said. What won't happen? Even if you lose, you won't lose everything. A faint blush finally appeared on Yi Rou's cheeks. She turned her eyes to the surface of Shihizi and said softly, you still have me. Fang Yin beamed and said, Rou, why are you so cute tonight? I feel like I'm not afraid of you anymore. Yi Rou stared at Fang Yin and asked, were you afraid of me before? I wasn't afraid. I just respected you a little. I couldn't help but want to respect you. But I was still afraid. Yi Rou said. I really wasn't afraid. If I was afraid of you, why would I want to marry you? Am I right? Fang Yin, I want to talk to you about something. Rou, I also want to talk to you about something. Fang Yin looked at Yi Rou and said with a serious face. Yi Rou pondered for a moment and looked at Fang Yin thoughtfully. She nodded and said, okay. What do you want to say? You know about the existence of Lu Chaoga, right? Yes. You two used to live together in Rosefinch. When Chiba challenged you in the Ministry of War, I saw her in the small courtyard where you lived. Yi Rou had a very good memory. She certainly wouldn't forget that she had seen Lu Chaoga before. Pausing for a moment, he added, a very capable and charming woman. When she saw me, there was wariness and hostility in her eyes. But she didn't know about it. Between me and her, Fang Yin dodged her eyes and didn't dare to look into Yi Rou's eyes. Before seeing Yi Rou, he felt that he had made enough mental preparation. He felt that it was his fault and he had to bear the responsibility. He wanted to confess to Yi Rou. He wanted to beg for Yi Rou's forgiveness or accept Yi Rou's unforgiveness. In any case, he had to let Yi Rou know. Otherwise, if the truth was exposed, it would hurt Yi Rou and Lu Chaoga more. Of course, the current situation itself was a kind of injury. Have you slept together? Yi Rou asked aloud. Can you imagine how Fang Yin felt at this moment? He just wanted to drink some water, but someone fired a powerful water gun and sprayed it on his face. Fang Yin stared at Yi Rou and asked in surprise, how do you know? Grandpa told me. Yi Rou said expressionlessly. I've only heard of people who set up their fathers. How could there be someone who set up their grandson? Fang Yin felt that he was killed by the old man and his family. Didn't we agree that, let me solve this matter by myself? Didn't we agree that, I must confess by myself and no one can help me? Didn't we agree that I shouldn't hide it for the rest of my life? Grandpa, what the hell are you playing at? Don't you know that you will kill me by setting me up like this? Don't you understand that love is sometimes very fragile? Of course, Grandpa didn't understand. At that time they must have been arranged by their parents. They didn't even know what their grandmother looked like before they entered the bridal chamber. The muscles on Fang Yan's face twitched. After swallowing a few mouthfuls of saliva, he looked at Yi Ro cautiously and asked, Grandpa, what did he say to you? Nothing much. Yi Ro's expression didn't show any sadness or joy. She said lightly, he just asked me if I like Lu Chaoga. Grandpa asked me if I like Lu Chaoga. I'm not familiar with Lu Chaoga. Why would he ask me this question? Of course it's because you are familiar with her. Fang Yin, I just don't want to think about it, but I'm not stupid. Grandpa has already hinted so clearly, how can I not know what he means? I think the relationship between you two must be extraordinary, otherwise, you and Grandpa wouldn't be in such a difficult position. Yi Ro's expression became serious. She looked at Fang Yin with murderous eyes. Yes, it was indeed murderous. Yi Ro, who had entered the heavenly Dao realm, gave people a feeling of gentleness like water. Even the coldness from before had melted a lot. She looked like an ordinary woman. However, at this moment Yi Ro was filled with danger. It made people feel the biting cold aggression that could kill with a touch. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yin and asked in a deep voice, Fang Yin, aren't you afraid that I'll be angry? Plop. Fang Yan's body retreated continuously, and his back leaned against the hard stone wall of someone's house. He looked at Yi Ro with a sad face and said, I'm ready. You can do whatever you want. Of course, I know this still won't solve any problem. So, before you make any decision, can you listen to me first? I don't like to listen to nonsense. Yi Ro's tone was cold. I know. Fang Yin said in a deep voice, I love you. Chapter 803. I love you. For true lovers, these 3 words were worth a lot of gold. To a casual one-night stand couple, these 3 words were not much different from good morning, or, I want to take a dump. However, as for how to distinguish whether it was nonsense or not, that would depend on the benevolent and the wise. At that time the sword was only 0.01 centimeters away from my throat. But after the time for a quarter of an incense stick, the owner of the sword would fall in love with me completely because I decided to tell a lie. Although I have told countless lies in my life, I think this one is the most perfect. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong line. There was no sword, only the strong killing intent emanating from Yi Ro's body. Yi Ro stared at Fang Yin coldly, as if she was staring at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Should she kill him first and castrate him, or castrate him first and then kill him? This was a very illogical question. But how could a woman be logical? I love you, Fang Yin looked at Yi Ro and said. He thought his way of solving the problem was perfect, just like the way Joker answered Zixia Fairy in Journey to the West. A senior gambler once said that when a woman was angry, as long as she said the words, I love you, to her, she would instantly lose her mind or IQ. Once a woman lost the ability to think, she could only be led by a man to move forward. However, Yi Ro was obviously not that kind of woman. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yan's face and said, a move you often use? Do you think it will work on me? I know you are the most difficult person in this matter. Fang Yin said with a red face. It was not only because of embarrassment but also because of the timidity and guilt of facing Yi Ro. Things have happened and the result has been determined. But such a fact is pushed in front of you and you have to choose whether to accept or reject it. This is a great injustice to you. I'm not a victim. From a man's standpoint, I'm the one who benefits the most. I should be responsible for everything I've done. I was very nervous at the time, but I had to pretend to be calm in front of the other woman because it wasn't her fault. I said that I would bear all the sins and consequences. I want to say the same to you. If you are angry, you vent. If you hate, you fight. But you can't kill me yet because I still have important things to do. I have to live at least for a while. I have to protect my grandfather and my mother. I have to make sure that they are safe and that no harm will befall them. At that time, I will be at your disposal. If you really did that, maybe I would feel better in my heart. You mean I can't do anything to you now? Not really, why don't you scold me now? Fang Yin asked cautiously. Or you can beat me up, Fang Yen, I'm very angry. Yi Rou stared at Fang Yen and said. I know, Fang Yen said in a low voice. He slightly lowered his head, showing that he was admitting his guilt. You're sorry? Yi Rou's tone became even colder. Yes, I'm sorry. You have to compensate? Okay, I'll compensate. What? You have to marry me, Yi Rou said. Okay, I'll marry you. Fang Yen suddenly raised his head and looked at Yi Rou in surprise, asking, What did you just say? You have to marry me, Yi Rou said. You have to be responsible for me. I know, but Fang Yan's head felt like it had been rained on for a whole night. He was in a daze and couldn't find the right direction. Just a moment ago they were about to fight and kill each other. How did it turn into a romantic drama in the blink of an eye? The scene changed so fast that Fang Huohua couldn't react. I'm your girlfriend, Yi Rou said. Yes, you always have been. I'm also your boyfriend. Our family knows about us. Everyone in Swallow Dock knows about us. Many people in Yanjing also know about us. Mrs. Li and Uncle Zhang in the village just saw us hugging. Yes, they saw. Fang Yen nodded his head like a chick pecking rice. What does this woman want to say? Why did it feel like she was different from before? If I encountered such a thing in the past, I would directly rush up and beat her up. She would beat me up happily and I would suffer happily. It was straightforward and efficient, without any sloppiness, nor would it make people feel uneasy. What does she want to play? If you don't marry me, my reputation will be ruined, Yi Rou said. Ah. Accept or refuse. Know this matter? Accept or refuse? Aren't you angry? I've done something wrong to you, the heartless and ungrateful kind. Angry? So I asked you to marry me, accept or refuse. I accept. Good. Yi Rou nodded and said, Go back and prepare the betrothal gift. After that, she turned around and walked back the way she came. Her back was soft and beautiful, and her two long legs were light and powerful as if she was stepping on the strings of a piano. Fang Yen was stunned on the spot and hadn't come to his senses until now. He knew that Yi Rou usually didn't talk much, but she had a very high IQ. Is it because she hates me so much that she wants to force me to marry her and then have a bunch of children and beat my children every day to get back at me? Thinking of this possibility, Fang Yen almost burst into tears. My children are so pitiful. These women are so scheming. Fang Yen walked back home in a daze. His grandfather, Fang Huwei, was sitting in a chair and drinking tea. Seeing that Fang Yen had returned, he handed over the teacup in his hand and shouted, Boy, go and pour me another cup of tea. The pastries given by the little girl Wen Nuan are delicious, but a little too sweet. I need to drink more water to get rid of the greasiness. Hey, why are you back so soon? He sized up his grandson's body and asked in puzzlement, You don't have any injuries? Didn't she break a leg or a few ribs or something? Fang Yen poured a cup of warm water and handed it over, shaking his head and saying, No. That's strange. It doesn't match that girl's character at all. Fang Hui's face was solemn. He looked at Fang Yan's face again and said, Have you heard? That girl Yi Rou has entered the Heavenly Dao realm. She's the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert in Swallow Dock. No, in the whole of Wuxia. I heard that the Yi family went to Sir and asked him to let Swallow Dock celebrate for 3 days. Sir agreed and engraved Yi Rou's name on a stone tablet at the village entrance. When was the last time a name was engraved on a stone tablet? It was when your eldest senior brother succeeded in ascending to the Heavenly Dao by underestimating his enemy. It's impossible to tell when a Heavenly Dao realm expert beats someone on the surface. I know you always suffer because you want to save face. If you're injured, quickly tell your family. Get someone to help you circulate your blood so that you can recover faster. Don't force yourself to bear with it. She didn't hit me. Fang Yen shook his head once again. Is that so? Fang Hui's face looked a little regretful. Then she scolded you. It's fine even if she scolds you a little. I know that last Roro. She doesn't hold back when she hits you, but she can't say anything harsh. Scolding you a little is already letting you off lightly. Fang Hui suddenly thought of something as his body trembled. He said, Don't tell me Roro wants to break up with you? Has it already come to this? No. Fang Yen looked at his grandfather with a grumpy look. Can't this old man think of something better? You sold me out secretly and pretended that nothing had happened. I haven't even settled the score with you yet. Then what on earth is going on? Fang Hui couldn't drink the warm water anymore. He stared at Fang Yen anxiously. She asked me to take responsibility, said Fang Yen. Take responsibility? Oh, things have already happened. You can't do anything to Miss Zhaoga, can you? She asked me to marry her, said Fang Yan. She said that everyone in the village knows about us. If I don't marry her, it will be bad for her reputation. I'm very worried now, said Fang Yan. Worried about what? Worried that your great-grandson will be bullied by his mother, said Fang Yan. She doesn't want to get back at me, so she wants to get back at my son. When my son is born, he won't have a good life. Isn't that right? Smack. The old man, Fang Huwei, smashed a sandalwood stick at Fang Yan's head and scolded, Are you possessed, boy? Yiro wants to get back at you, so she forced you to marry her to give birth to a son for you, and then bully your son? I'm just worried. Fang Yan touched his head and said with a wronged expression. Your son is not her son. If she bullies your son, isn't she bullying her own son? That's true. Besides, Yiro is a Heavenly Dao Realm expert. Why would a Heavenly Dao Realm expert want to take revenge on a fickle man? If I were Ro, I would have smacked you to death. Kid, tell me quickly. Did Ro really ask you to marry her? Did you hear something wrong? Did she say when? Shouldn't our Fang family prepare something? She asked me to go back and prepare a betrothal gift. It's done. Fang Huwei slapped his thigh and said, I've already prepared the betrothal gift. Fang Huwei said with an intoxicated look, Yiro is a Heavenly Dao Realm expert. She's the youngest Heavenly Dao Realm expert. Although my grandson isn't very capable, my granddaughter-in-law is powerful. Let's see who dares to look down on our Fang family. Chapter 804. Children were always better than those from other families. Therefore there was a miraculous existence. Children from other families. For his good-for-nothing grandson to be able to marry the Heavenly Dao Realm Yiro, it made Fang Huwei overjoyed. Fang Yan, our Fang family's feng shui is really good. It's extremely good. Think about it. In the past century, how many Heavenly Dao Realm experts have appeared in Swallow Dock? 2 in total. There were only 2 of them. They were the one who underestimated the enemy 20 years ago and the one who became gentle 20 years later. Both of them were members of the Fang family and had a close relationship with the Fang family. Although our Fang family has only one descendant, every generation is an outstanding elite. Although outsiders think that each generation is worse than the last 20 years ago, due to Azure Dragon underestimating enemy's existence, our Fang family was not to be belittled. This time, if what you say is true and reliable, and Yiro is really willing to marry you, willing to marry into our Fang family, then our Fang family will have another Heavenly Dao Realm expert. When we return from underestimating our enemy, our Fang family will have 2 Heavenly Dao Realm experts holding down the fort. Old man Fang's face flushed red as he danced in joy. He was so excited that he couldn't even speak properly. 2 Heavenly Dao Realm experts. How powerful would that be? There are only a few Heavenly Dao Realm experts in all of Wuxia. At that time, even if you were an idiot, no one would dare belittle you, Grandpa. Fang Yan was very displeased with the old man's words. Why did he become an idiot? Although his current martial strength was a little weak, and his heart of Taiji had yet to fully recover, he couldn't be considered an idiot, right? He still had a mind that was good at scheming, and he had the intelligence to devise strategies. He also had a handsome face and an outstanding bearing. How could he be an idiot? Old man Fang Huwei completely ignored Fang Yan's displeasure and continued expressing his joy. Do you know what it means for Yiro, who is at the Heavenly Dao Realm, to marry into our Fang family? It means that our Fang family will rise again. It means that no one will dare to bully our Fang family again. It means that your battle with the general family, that bunch of bastards will have to consider if they can withstand the revenge of our Fang family's women. Grandpa, you shut up. Fang Huwei shouted. Fortunately, he's gentle, affectionate, righteous, and broad-minded. He doesn't care about what you've done outside. Otherwise, wouldn't this great marriage be ruined by you? Do you know how much effort I've put into making this marriage happen? Do you know how they treated me the first time I went to challenge the Yi family? She didn't care about you at all. If I didn't ask Yiro to beat you every year and sometimes a few more times, how could you two have such a deep relationship? Can you get to where you are today and win the heart of a beauty? Behind every successful grandson, there must be a grandfather who silently contributes. Grandpa, go and call your mother over. Fang Huwei waved his hand at Fang Yan and said, I have to discuss with her who to find as a matchmaker. I also have to ask her to help me find a good date to send the betrothal gifts. It would be best if he can calculate the date of the wedding. By the way, we also have to think of a good matchmaker. The Yi family is not an ordinary family now. The matchmaker must have some weight. Why are you still standing there? Go quickly. Grandpa, you have a granddaughter-in-law and you have forgotten your grandson. Besides, you haven't married your granddaughter-in-law yet. Only then did Fang Hui take a serious look at Fang Yan. He chuckled and said, I've told Wen Rowan that if you make that kind of emotional mistake again, she doesn't need to do anything. I'll punish you according to the family rules. Fang Yan went to call his mother Lu Wan. Lu Wan was very happy to hear that Yi Ro agreed to marry him. Yes, she did say so. Then she began to discuss with Fang Hui about who to find as a matchmaker, what betrothal gifts to send, and when to set the date of the engagement and the wedding. Fang Yan stood there for a long time and found that he was completely invisible. He was a little confused. Wasn't he the one who was going to get married? Why didn't anyone ask for his opinion? I might go back on my word, Fang Yan thought to himself. Soon he shook his head and gave up the idea. I'm just being reserved. If I can marry Yi Ro, I'm willing to be beaten by her every day. Winter hadn't come yet and the first snowflake was still far away. But Mr. Fang had already put on a thick gray robe, as if he couldn't stand the early cold in the hollow of Swallow Dock. Mr. Fang carried a dung basket on his back and a dung bag in his hand. He casually picked up the dung from the animals at the foot of the road while talking to Fang Yan. Ro is still ahead of you. There was a comfortable smile on Mr. Fang's face, which was a compliment to the outstanding achievements of the younger generation of Swallow Dock. People used to say that Yi Ro was a rare martial arts prodigy in Swallow Fort. That's right, but it's also wrong. Seeking for martial arts is a mysterious thing. Some people take the first 99 steps but they get stuck at the last step and it's hard for them to take the last step in their lifetime. Some people fall behind by 99 steps, but the latecomers catch up as if they took the 100 steps in one night. At that time, there were 4 people in Swallow Dock who stood on the same level, Yi Ro, Bailey Lu and Bai Xiu. I'm not praising Bai Xiu because he is my apprentice, but because he really has the talent in this area and can give people enough expectations. And you can't deny that he worked harder than the 3 of you? Fang Yan nodded and said, I don't deny that. Bai Xiu worked harder than us. He wasn't a member of Swallow Dock and he couldn't integrate with us. Because he came from the outside and because he was too outstanding or too hard-working, we all ostracized him, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Perhaps this was also the cause of everyone's deep resentment. At that time, we were indeed too young and impetuous and did a lot of things wrong. What choice did we have at that time? Mr. Fang shook his head and sighed. It's natural for young people to fight and quarrel. Even ordinary young children will quarrel for years and not speak. What's more, this is Swallow Dock. If you're not convinced, I won't admit defeat. Isn't that a very normal thing? It's still the mentality. If the mentality is crooked, the steps will also be crooked. Swallow Dock can't tolerate him. Mr. Fang picked up a pile of dried cow dung on the ground and carried the dung basket forward. But now, only Yi Ro has stepped onto the Heavenly Dao, becoming the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert in Swallow Dock. So she's ahead of all of you. This is a great thing for Swallow Dock. How many years has it been since Swallow Dock had a Heavenly Dao realm expert? It wasn't easy for us to have someone like Imo Qingdi, but in the end we encountered such a thing. So, when Dawen came to me to ask Swallow Dock to celebrate this matter for 3 days, I agreed immediately. With such a thing happening, I'd be happy even if it's a 30-day celebration. Fang Yan nodded and said, it's indeed something to be proud of. Gently stepping onto the Heavenly Dao is very beneficial to us. Bailey Lu has been like a madman for the past few days, trying to find a way to break out of the cage. Such matters can't be rushed. It comes naturally and goes with the heart, Mr. Fang said with a smile. So, are you ready to marry Teng Yuan? That's the case, Fang Yan said with a nod. Then he looked up at Mr. Fang and asked, does Mr. Fang already know? I knew a long time ago, Mr. Fang said. Fang Yan smiled and said, I've troubled everyone regarding Gentle and me. It is indeed troublesome, Mr. Fang said with a nod. Before you came back when Yuan came to see me? Oh? Fang Yan looked at Mr. Fang with a puzzled gaze and asked, what did Gentle look for you for? She said she wanted to marry you, Mr. Fang said. Back then, why did she look for you to say this? You should know what Gentle's ascension to the Heavenly Dao means to the Yi family, right? I know. Fang Yan nodded. The Yi family's reputation is rising again. No one can stop it. That's right, Mr. Fang said with a smile. The Yi family's development these years has been too smooth and too rapid. Not only is it unstoppable in Swallow Dock, but it has also formed its own faction in the outside world and become a behemoth. The 3 tigers of the Yi family have outstanding abilities, but they are low-key and introverted. It must be easy for you to overlook Yi Daoling's influence in the political world and Yi Daoxuan's power in the military, right? Fang Yan's mind turned and he looked at Mr. Fang and said, Gentle is worried? On the one hand, Gentle is a little worried. Although the men of the Yi family look like mountains and rivers on the surface, they are extremely tough in their bones, proud and awe-inspiring, and not easily subdued. The development of the Yi family is naturally a good thing for the Yi family. But blessings and misfortunes go hand in hand. Who can be sure that this is not a bad thing? Gentle wants to put a break on the Yi family, so she has to leave the Yi family. The best way to leave the Yi family is to marry into your Fang family. Mr. Fang looked at Fang Yan and said, The Fang family used to be glorious, especially during the period of don't underestimate the enemy. They even walked to the peak of glory. Unfortunately, underestimate the enemy fell due to injuries, and the Fang family once again fell to the low level. These years the Fang family's luck has not been good. Yi Xing died in battle, and your heart of Tai Chi is also fluctuating and uncertain. So, at this time Yi Gentle marrying into your Fang family is the best of both worlds. Mr. Fang Yan's face was burning with pain. He said, You mean, I'm a burden? You can't say that, Mr. Fang said as he strode forward with the manure basket. It's just luck. You don't have too much psychological pressure. Gentle is a good child. Even if she enters the Fang family's door, I'm sure she won't treat you too badly. Chapter 805. Fang Yin had always felt that he was the youngest, most handsome and fair-skinned successor of the Fang Tai Chi. Why did others feel that he was pitiful and deserving of sympathy? He could be Fang Yin, the Fang Yin who fought against the Qinya military department, the Fang Yin who killed the father and son of the Jiang family, the Fang Yin who forced Jiang Junling to be expelled from the family, the Fang Yin who killed the Tao addict Song Zaniang, one of the 7 addicts of Wuxia, the Fang Yin of Tiger Sawflower City, and the Fang Yin who fought against the Jiang family head-on. As an adult who had just come of age, achieving such achievements could be described as blinding the eyes of others. Why was it that when it came out of everyone's mouths, they all seemed to despise it? Could it be that there was a man more outstanding than him in this world? Impossible. Fang Yin swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, then looked at the teacher and said, Sir, I think you have some misunderstandings about me. Walala. The teacher poured the feces in the basket into the manure pond in the backyard, then placed the basket in the corner of the wall. He rubbed his hands and pushed open the small wooden door. He washed his hands by the well in the yard, then took a black towel and wiped his face. Only then did he look at Fang Yin and ask, What misunderstanding? I think I'm quite powerful too, Fang Yin said. Oh? The teacher grinned and asked, How are you powerful? The Jiang family has always wanted to kill me, but they haven't been able to until now, so I'm very powerful. How many of the people the Jiang family wants to deal with are still alive and well? Fang Yin said with a serious expression. Moreover, I might not lose. Have you ever thought that the Jiang family might lose this time? If the Jiang family loses, what will the result be? How will other people look at this matter? What kind of expression will they use to look at me? The teacher rubbed his wrinkled old face and nodded. What you said is not impossible. I think you won't lose. Fang Yin was overjoyed and asked, Do you think I will win? It's also hard to win, the teacher said. You're in a dilemma now. Fang Yin began to dislike Sir. He had changed. He had become very strange, almost like his 2 masters. If you have something to say, can't you just say it all at once? Why did they have to make it so complicated? The man didn't care about Fang Yan's disdainful look. He pushed open the door and walked in. He sat down on his old rattan chair as if his body was exhausted. He waved at Fang Yin and said, Go pour me a cup of tea. Fang Yin responded. He saw a big teapot on the table and poured a big bowl of herbal tea from the teapot and handed it over. The teacher didn't take it and shouted angrily, You brat, you're too insensible. I'm already so old and it's such a cold day, and you're giving me this kind of herbal tea? Aren't you afraid of freezing my body? If your grandfather asked you to pour tea, would you pour this kind of herbal tea for him? Fang Yan's face was full of grievance. He knew that with Sir's martial arts cultivation, not to mention drinking a bowl of cold water, even if he was soaked in ice water 24 hours a day, it wouldn't freeze his body. This old man was so unreasonable. However, thinking of Sir's martial arts cultivation, Fang Yin didn't dare to offend him. So he quickly ran over and added half a bowl of hot water into the tea bowl. Only then did Sir take a big gulp. He looked at Fang Yin and said, Sit. Fang Yin sat in front of Sir and said, Sir, I'm from Swallow Dock. I've been bullied outside. You have to help me. Sir held the tea bowl and looked at Fang Yen asking, You want to borrow power? I want to borrow a knife. Fang Yen said. If the young and old of Swallow Dock unite, even 10 families of generals won't be enough for us to kill. We can kill our way to the general's old mansion in minutes. You and that old man Jiang Shifu are old friends, so I'll leave him to you. Although your martial arts are good, you have to be careful of him using a spear. I think people at his age can do anything shameless. And then the generals will disappear. We'll return to Swallow Dock and continue to live and work in peace. Fang Yen said with a smile. I can't promise you. You know I won't promise you. You're pushing Swallow Dock into a pit of fire. If Swallow Dock really did something like that, would it still be Swallow Dock? Would anyone still tolerate our existence and give us these privileges? I'm just saying. Fang Yen rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. I just feel so suffocated. Others are already bullying us, but we can't do anything. We can only passively take a beating. This isn't our style. If those heroes who sacrificed themselves knew that their descendants were in such dire straits, do you think they'd be so angry that they'd come back to life and fight the generals? If the generals were really unscrupulous, they wouldn't have only shown this little bit of power. Haven't you noticed? They've always been doing things within the rules. Whether it's touching Du Qing or suppressing the businesses of Chao Yen and your partners, they're all tactics that can be used in business competition. This is also why we can't stand out and say anything. Could it be that just because you came from Swallow Fort that others couldn't snatch or touch your business? Or maybe it's because the generals have deep connections behind them that no one can compete with them head-on. This is obviously unreasonable. But it's immoral for them to kidnap people. Fang Yen said angrily. Master glanced at Fang Yen and said, You killed the Tao addict Song Zaniang. Will the generals jump out and reason with you? So, no one is actually willing to reason with us now. No. On the surface, everyone is reasonable. On the surface they're not reasonable. In private there are many things that can't be done. Master, you're not willing to come out. Why do you need to come out? Master smiled. If you sit here and don't move, the people behind the generals can't move either. If you move first, they'll follow suit. That's true. Fang Yen sighed. Fang Yan's hands and feet were tied. The generals also couldn't use more of their power. If he didn't have an existence like Swallow Dock behind him, they could probably do a lot of things to make him disappear into thin air. Now that he had to act economically, he had to admit that they must be very uncomfortable. You're right about one thing, Master said. Which one? You said you're very powerful, Master said. Fang Yen grinned and said, Master, do you really think so? Do you know why I don't think you'll lose? Because I can't see through you. Master finished half of the tea in his bowl, then handed the empty bowl to Fang Yen and said, I've seen through so many people, but there are only 2 I can't see through. One is Bai Xiu and the other is you. Master Zhang has a bad eye for people. I told you a long time ago that Bai Xiu wasn't a good person, but you didn't believe me. Now do you know why I kept my distance from him? That's true, Master smiled bitterly. But I can see that you have a drive in your bones. This drive is very terrifying, it can make you do anything. Even if you suddenly defeated the generals tonight, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Because I don't know what you can do, I can't even guess what you're planning. To get to where you are now, isn't it because of this drive? I'm currently taking a beating, Fang Yen said. The situation in Flower City isn't very optimistic. I'm planning to return tomorrow after seeing you. What kind of logic is that, leaving your friends behind? The men of Swallow Dock can't do such a thing. Master looked at Fang Yen and said, You won't go back. Why do you say that, Master? Because you didn't get anything. What? You didn't get anything from this trip back to Yanjing, Master said. That's not your style. What do you mean, Master? You came to Yanjing at the most critical moment in Flower City, which means you must have some plans in Yanjing. If you didn't get anything, why would you leave Flower City at this time? Didn't I say that I came to Yanjing to get reinforcements? Fang Yen spread his hands and shrugged helplessly, saying, I just didn't get any reinforcements. If you didn't come to Yanjing, wouldn't you know the final result of this trip? Whether the Qin family will make a move, whether Qin Yiqian will make a move, couldn't you have calculated all of this? Master looked at Fang Yen thoughtfully and said, Fang Yen, what do you want to do? Fang Yen looked at Master for a long while, then got up and bowed to Master, saying, Thank you for your advice, Master. I know what to do. With that, he turned and walked out of the door of the small house. Fang Yen, Master called out. Fang Yen turned to look at Fang Yen and asked, Master? I've already announced the news of Wenru successfully climbing to the heavenly Tao realm. Swallow Dock will celebrate for 3 days. I've also spread the news of you and Wenru getting married, and the day of the wedding has been chosen. It'll be on the 8th of the 12th lunar month. It'll be appropriate for you to get married. Fang Yin stood in the yard and bowed to Master again, saying, "Thank you, Master." Master waved his hand and said, "Go do what you need to do. You can lose, but you have to come back alive. If you're alive, there's hope. If you're dead, you're just a handful of dirt." Fang Yin smiled and said, "Don't worry, Master. I definitely won't lose." Chapter 806. Qin Chang was very busy these 2 days. He was busy contacting the direct descendants of the Qin family to form an anti-feminist alliance, helping each other and working hand in hand. Those who were strong would contribute, and those who were weak would fool their parents to contribute. No matter what, he had to overthrow the 2 mountains that were riding on the heads of the Qin family's males. Qin Chang was very busy and it was worth it. He found that almost all the young men of the Qin family were not satisfied with Li Xinyan and Qin Yitian taking over the power of the Qin family. They were all dignified 7-foot men. They had manners and were capable. How could they live with such a small amount of dividends every month? A real man should take over the power of the Qin family. No matter what, they had to drive the mother and daughter away this time. As for who would take over the power of the Qin family, it was not up to him as a junior to decide. However, he personally thought that his 4th uncle was very qualified. He was his father's brother, and he had doted on him since he was a child. If 4th uncle were to take over, she would become the Qin Yitian she was now. Just thinking about it made her feel a little excited. Mansion number 1. In order to avoid being noticed, Qin Chang had arranged for everyone to gather there. The other brothers were running around outside, while he stayed in the center to collect information and control it. "Qin Guan, how is your contact?" Qin Chang asked when he saw Qin Guan striding into the room. Qin Guan asked the servant to bring him a cup of Longjing tea. Then he answered Qin Chang's question. "My father, my mother, and my uncle have made a decision. They said that some things should be considered carefully. The Qin clan had a lot of men and the children were all capable. How could they be allowed to idle around all day and do nothing? They have to find opportunities to gain experience, don't they?" Qin Chang was overjoyed. He said with a smile, "Your father and your uncle are willing to stand up for us. Our chance of success has increased by 10%. I'd like to see how they will talk this time." "I'm afraid that the elders in the family," Qin Guan reminded him. "Do you think the elders in the family are willing to side with the mother and daughter? Wasn't it for the stability and unity of the Qin family? If they see that the people of the Qin family have changed their minds and everyone wants to kick them out of power, I'm sure at that time they will go with the flow and agree to our request." Qin Chang excitedly analyzed the situation and said, "Besides, don't your grandpa and my grandpa want their children to go there? Now that the opportunity has come, isn't it natural for them to give it a push?" Qin Guan nodded repeatedly and said, "Big brother, it seems that we can succeed this time." "Of course." Qin Chang's expression was incomparably firm. "This is not only our thoughts but also the thoughts of all the uncles in the family. Think about it, 2 women forcefully oppressing 2 generations of men in the Qin family. Who would feel good? Their current situation is our future. What we have to go through in the future they have endured for many years. This is a war of justice. Anyway, I'll follow you." Qin Guan smiled and said, "Brother, your wedding date is approaching, right?" Qin Chang patted his head and said with annoyance, "Look at me, I almost forgot something important. We agreed to try on wedding dresses today but I was so busy that I forgot it." Qin Guan was also anxious and said, "Big brother, this kind of thing can't be delayed. Hurry up and get busy. Leave the rest to us." Qin Chang patted Qin Guan's shoulder and said, "Let's keep in touch." After saying that, he got up and walked outside. When he walked downstairs, the driver was already waiting at the gate of the number 1 mansion. "Go to the Imperial Court," Qin Chang said. The driver nodded and drove the car to the Imperial Court. The Imperial Court was the most famous wedding photography shop in Yanjing and even the whole country. It was famous for providing personalized, customized services. Besides, it was only open to the public on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. The rest of the time, it was closed and only served some special guests. Sometimes, the entire Imperial Court would only decide on a plan for a couple. When Qin Chang rushed over, Li Junling had already arrived. Li Junling was in the midst of choosing a wedding dress with the beautiful boss of the Imperial Court, Chen Mengyao, as well as the head designer, Mu Bai, and the others. When he saw Qin Chang enter, he only glanced at him indifferently and smiled. I thought you forgot. How come? Qin Chang walked quickly to Li Junling and said, I've been thinking about it. It's just that I didn't finish some things at hand, so I came a little late. Junling, don't mind it. Li Junling shook his head and said, Why would I? Men have their own things to do. If I mind it, how can we live together in the future? Mr. Qin is gentle and considerate, and Miss Li is beautiful and generous. What an enviable couple. The beautiful boss of the imperial court, Chen Mengyao, complimented them. Qin Chang nodded at her and said, Any man who can spend a lifetime with a woman like Junling will take care of her in every possible way. I'm far from doing enough. Li Junling held Qin Chang's hand and leaned into his embrace and said, I believe you. We will definitely be happy in the future. Do you think this dreamy princess dress that I chose looks good? Qin Chang looked at the blue princess dress that was made from fairy tales and nodded. Junling is a princess. You will definitely look good in this wedding dress. You will be the most beautiful bride in the world. There are a few more in front. I think that angel white dress is also very good. Let's go take a look. Miss Junling, if you like it, you can try it on, Chen Mengyao encouraged. Can I? Li Junling asked with a smile. Of course, Chen Mengyao nodded. Li Junling looked at Qin Chang and said, Do you feel bored? Why would I? Qin Chang had a doting expression. To me, nothing is more important than what we are doing today. Then let's try it, Li Junling said. The chief designer Mu Bai gave the order. A group of wedding dress store employees behind him immediately got busy. Li Junling went into the inner room to try on the wedding dress, while Chen Mengyao invited Qin Chang to the rest area for tea. Because she knew Qin Chang's identity, Chen Mengyao tried her best to please him. She personally brewed a cup of tea for him and said with a smile, Young Master Qin, you have to invite me to your wedding. Let's go and bask in the happiness. Qin Chang was in a good mood that day. He immediately agreed to Chen Mingyao's request. He said to the bodyguard standing beside him, Ming, remember this. You will personally deliver the invitation to Miss Chen. The bodyguard bowed in agreement, indicating that he would keep this matter in mind. At that moment, Qin Chang's phone rang in his pocket. He took out his cell phone and saw that it was Qin Guan's number. Qin Chang answered the phone and said with a smile, Qin Guan, you are doing this on purpose, aren't you? You know that I have something important to do today, but you just had to call me at this time. Brother, something happened? Qin Guan sounded a little impatient. What happened? Qin Chang tensed up. What could happen? Could it be that the two women found out about their secret contact? So what if they knew? Anyway, they had already contacted them, and it was obvious that they wanted to force them to step down. Or would the elders of the family stand up and stop them? That would be bad. At that time, should he continue or stop? Brother, that, Qin Guan stammered on the other side of the phone. Qin Guan was angry and said, Qin Guan, it's not a big deal. Things have been pushed to this point. Even if the two women know, what can they do? Don't tell me you don't have the courage to confront them after they shout at you? Look at you, don't you look like a man? Brother, it's not about that. If not this, then what is it? It's about you. What's wrong with me? Qin Guan was even more curious. Could it be that some kind of fire was burning him? Qin Guan sneered in his heart. It seemed that they had realized his importance and knew that he was the one behind it. If they wanted to shoot the bird that stood out, they had to find a way to kill him first. However, he had already established his power. They could not let him succeed with just a few words. Benefits, they had to give him enough benefits. Soon they would come to his door and negotiate with him, wouldn't they? At that time he would open his mouth like a lion and bite off a big piece of fat from them. Sister-in-law, Li Junling, is she with you? Call her sister-in-law. She will be your sister-in-law from now on. Why are you asking about her? Brother, didn't you see that video? Video? What video? You'd better watch it, Qin Guan said anxiously. Tell me what video. Qin Guan was a little angry. This guy could not do anything right. He could not even say a complete sentence. How could he achieve anything great? No wonder the power of the Qin family had been controlled by the two women for so long. The main reason was that these guys were useless. I'll send it to you. Then Qin Guan hung up the phone. Ding, Qin Chang received a message on his mobile phone. He opened it and saw a recorded video. He could clearly see his fiancée, Li Junling, with a man. After watching the video, Qin Chang was short of breath and his face was red. His forehead was dripping with sweat, and he looked like he was suffering from a serious illness. General, Qin Chang roared sadly. Chapter 807. Qin Tian reclined on the sofa, polishing her slender nails with scissors while watching the Nasdaq stock chart on the big TV screen in the room. For Qin Tian, paying attention to the stocks of several markets every day was as important as watching the news every night to see the political trend. Muing pushed open the office door and walked in. Ignoring the bad posture of this noble and elegant young lady, who looked like a peacock with its tail open 24 hours a day, he said in a clear voice, "Miss, it's very noisy outside." "How so?" Qin Tian asked without raising her head. She had just finished repairing the 5 fingers of her left hand, and there were still 5 fingers on the right that had not been repaired. Women had a lot of things to deal with every day, and every one of them seemed to be extremely important. She couldn't be careless at all. The other families have united a lot of people, saying that they want to force the elders in the family to abdicate. They think that Madam and Miss are a little powerless to control such a big family business. They think that as the men of the Qin family, they should stand up and share some obligations and responsibilities. Anyway, that's what they said. Share obligations and responsibilities? A sneer appeared on Qin Tian's lips, but it was fleeting. It seemed that in her heart, looking down on them was looking up to them. The family releases more than a dozen entrepreneurial projects every year. Why don't they have the guts to take them? Occasionally there are a few cases. How about the performance? Are there any profits or hopes of making profits in the future? Did they really not know what they were made of? Jumping out at this time to make trouble, it's really, idiot. Qin Tian's sexy mouth jumped out 2 gentle words. Miss Muing knew that the young lady he served was arrogant and didn't care about ordinary people at all. He had to persuade her. Do you want to remind Madam? Madam has been too busy recently. I'm afraid that she hasn't noticed what's going on here. After all, it seems that it's just a few children playing, but in fact there are adults and elders behind them. If Madam doesn't guard against them at all, I'm afraid that they will bite her when the time comes. Qin Tian glanced at Muing and said, Muing, you are becoming more and more meticulous. Muing acted as if he had done something wrong. He didn't dare to look straight into Qin Tian's eyes and said embarrassedly, Miss, am I worried for nothing? It's not superfluous. Qin Tian lowered his head to trim his nails again. At least I know your sincerity. Do you know why idiots can never accomplish something? Qin Tian asked. Muing shook his head and said, maybe he's too stupid? It's one thing to be stupid, but your partners are also stupid. This is more sad. They collude with each other, and the people they colluded with run out to leak information to claim credit. How can such a group of people succeed? I was worrying too much, Muing said with a smile. I didn't expect them to be so stupid. I talked to Mother about this. She said to let them play, she's busy. Qin Tian looked up at the latest stock index and pointed to 2 stocks, saying, buy 97002 and 16321. Buy as much as you have. The confidential secretary heard this and immediately passed on this order. Qin Tian focused on trimming his nails again and said, is there any news about Fang Yan? Mr. Fang went back to Swallow Dock. Muing said with a smile. Before this, Master Xia of the Xia family met him. It was Xia who introduced him to Yi Daoling. Yi Daoling also invited him to breakfast, back to Swallow Dock. Qin Tian stopped cutting her nail clippers. She's at Swallow Dock too, she said thoughtfully. Muing immediately understood Mrs. Worry and said with a smile, Miss, do you want to go out and relax? What's the point of fighting? Qin Tian shook his head. If I go there now, I'll just throw my modesty on the ground and let others step on it again. If I can succeed, I don't care about this. But there's no hope. There's no hope at all. I can see that Mr. Fang has feelings for Mississippi. So what? Qin Tian asked. He said it's a teacher-student relationship. Obviously not. Since he said so, I can only believe him. Qin Tian smiled bitterly. Who asked me to be one step later than her? It was like a beautiful flower had lost its moisture in an instant. At this moment, Qin Tian was still extremely beautiful, but she had lost the aura that she exuded from her bones. Muing thought for a while and said, Miss, you are not someone who gives up easily. Is that so? Qin Tian thought about it and said, indeed. If I want something, I will definitely get it. Then Fang Yan. He is an exception. Qin Tian shook his head. My feelings for him are like a needle piercing into his flesh. The harder I try, the more pain he will feel. Since that's the case, why don't I make it easier for him? Qin Tian waved his hand and said, get out, I don't want to talk anymore. Mu Ying and Qin Yitian's confidential secretary left together, leaving only Qin Yitian in the spacious office. Qin Yitian threw the nail clipper into the box and lay down on the soft leather sofa. His black pupils looked at the boundless sky through the transparent glass. He sighed deeply and muttered to himself, "She's here too." Pornographic videos spread faster than viruses. The former tried to seduce you, while the latter made you impatiently fly into the fire like a moth to a flame. At first it spread in a small circle in Yanjing. Soon it spread to a larger and larger area. Finally, it was out of control and spread to a wider range of people. Although the major media and chat software blocked and deleted the video immediately, some things had been deeply hidden in people's minds. No matter what antivirus software you used, you couldn't find it. Li Junling, that bitch, looks so cold on the surface. I didn't expect that she could do such a thing in the dark. TSK, the Queen of Piano's figure looks good. Let's bet, Qin Chang versus General Hang. Who do you bet on to win? There was a lot of discussion and sarcasm. The world was full of different forms. Everyone knew that a storm was about to come. However, the two parties involved maintained an unusual silence on this matter. No, it was the three parties involved. Whether it was Li Junling, Qin Chang, or General Hang who intervened in their relationship, none of them expressed any opinion on this matter. Even after the video was released, the three never appeared in public again. During the turbulent times in Yanjing, Fang Yan was dragged by his grandfather, Fang Huwei, to the Yi family to propose marriage. The matchmaker that Fang Yan hired was Mr. He was considered the most respected person in Swallow Dock, so it wasn't considered a disgrace to the Yi family. When Mr. came, the Yi family's patriarch also came out to accompany him. Mr. looked at Yi Daowen, Yi Daoling, and the three Yi brothers who had yet to leave and said with a smile, "Dao Xin has lived in the village for a short period of time. He has been busy with the military, so there are many things that he isn't very clear about. Daowen has been living in the village for a long time, and Daoling has come back from time to time to visit. The two of you should be familiar with this child, Fang Yan. Can be said that we watched him grow up. It's easy for Swallow Dock to produce talents. Let's not talk about the past. Your Yi family's three tigers, which one of them isn't awe-inspiring outside. There's also Mo Qingdi who stepped into the heavenly Dao realm. Although he suffered this calamity because of his carelessness, it's not impossible for him to recover. If he were to really find the ice dragon's tendon to mend his remnant meridians, wouldn't he still be a heavenly Dao realm expert of our Swallow Dock? In the entire world, how many people are capable of fighting against him? There's no need to mention Wen Wan. She's a rare martial arts prodigy of our Swallow Dock. She succeeded in reaching the heavenly Dao realm at a young age, and is the youngest heavenly Dao realm expert of our Swallow Dock in all of Wuxia. Yesterday, Daowen came to me and said that he wanted to hold a celebration for 3 days. I wouldn't even agree to it for 3 months, much less 3 days. Wen Wan is a good child. Fang Yan is also a good child. And what's even rarer is that the two of them know each other well and have feelings for each other. Yesterday when I went out to pick up feces, old man Li, who lives in the east, even joked with me that he saw the Fang family's kid and the Yi family's last walk past his door. He said that he had to come over and have a drink when the two of them set up a feast. The villagers are also looking forward to attending their wedding feast. Sir's gaze landed on Yi Daowen's face as he said with a smile, "Daowen, you are Wen Wan's father. Logically speaking, this matter should require your approval. Now that the Fang family has sent the betrothal gifts over, it's now your turn to discuss it." He used his finger in his sleeve to point at the mountain of betrothal gifts inside and outside the house and asked, "Are you going to accept these betrothal gifts or not? Are you going to nod or shake your head? Say it in front of everyone." Yi Daowen's expression was gloomy as he stared intently at Fang Yan. This left Fang Yan depressed as he thought to himself, "It's useless even if you stare at me. I still haven't fully figured out the situation." Yin Wan sat beside Patriarch and saw her father remain silent. The other two uncles didn't seem to have any intention to speak either. Yin Wan glanced at Patriarch and said with a clear and firm voice, "I've accepted the betrothal gifts. I agree to the marriage." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.